we can hear, sometimes when people are over here, we just don't hear them.
Should we turn the lights on?
Do something the red
Yeah,
buttons do?
hit the red buttons. Thank you. Just state your name,
My name is Samuel Denny.
and your address.
I reside at 1256 Woodvale Drive here in Gallatin. You'll have to bear with me because I didn't come prepared to speak, but I feel like I'd be doing a disservice to my team if I didn't. I'm currently a sergeant at the Sumner County Sheriff's Office. I work a night shift at the jail. I work with some of the finest people that you can meet, right? Seeing the day-to-day activities, the day-to-day sacrifices that my team makes to keep everyone within this county safe makes me proud to represent my county. Part of what brings me here is to ensure that my team gets the best that they can get. Several of my team over the years I've been at the sheriff's office have approached me and asked for my advice in changing career choices and changing paths that they took their life. The thing I always tell them is that I will never put them down for wanting to better themselves. But if their leaving does not better themselves, I'll voice my opposition to it. What I'd like to see this county and our sheriff's office become is the best that you can choose. I don't see as people in our county that work hard every day to protect their county can look at some warehouse job or this or that as a better option to provide for their family. I don't want to preach too much on that, but the understanding that I have achieved is these people put their families worried every day coming into work, not knowing if they're going to make it home. They need to be proud to represent this county just as I am. I'm not here for the money or this or that. If I want a high-paying job, I look somewhere else. But that's the part that I believe needs to change. As a culture in this county, we need to back our people, and we need to give them the opportunities of growth to be able to provide for their families and not have to look for somewhere else. This is a county that we love. This is a county that we're proud to be in. Let's support our people that help protect it. And that's all I have to say this morning.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Chairman Boyd, can I ask him 2 questions?
Yes.
Because when we're doing the salary today, it'd probably be helpful. You said you're with the Sumner County Jail. How many years have you been with the jail?
I've been there 3.5 years.
Okay. So how long have you been a sergeant?
About roughly a year and a quarter.
Yeah, you've been a sergeant for a year and a quarter. Okay. Thank you.
And,
Yes.
and then if I can follow
Yes,
up.
ma'am.
And prior to that, you were,
Prior to that, I was actually a correctional officer at Trousdale Turner. It's a correctional facility. It's a prison in Trousdale County. So I made the adjustment, especially when I was looking at buying a house here, to transition, and there were some opportunities that I saw that I could seek within the county, which is part of why I'm such an advocate of providing those opportunities for others.
Can you tell me how many years you were at the Trousdale?
I was there for 2 years.
2.
thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
We're just closing public comments. Would you like to speak? All right, so that concludes public comments. So the next item is report of the committee chairman. Well, it's a good day outside. That'd be my report. So we move on to new business. We're going to discuss and analyze the sheriff's office compensation today. That's our topic. So I'll turn it over to finance department.
If you roll to the top, just roll to the top of that sheet, we kind of see what's going on. Close to the top there, there you go. So what we did, we went out and surveyed every county that would respond to us, and I think Eric said that he had Hendersonville, but they didn't respond to us.
I emailed it.
We may want to, but we may want to discuss it too when we get into the numbers. What we did was we divided them into steps. What most counties told us is that statements were based on years of service, but there's some qualifications here. Like, for instance, patrol officer, several of them responded back, it was based on post-certified years with their department, or total post-certified or post-certified plus. And then when you get down into like sergeants, lieutenants, captains, detectives, our understanding of those, and by the vast majority, that's based on the years of service in that particular position. So if you were with the department, we looked at one for 19 years, but they were a 3-year detective, so they put them in the 3-year slot. Does that make sense of what we've seen for most? What we have in our county, if you kicked over to Sumner total, and I know we're just going to do a really quick overview, that one where it says Sumner total tab on the bottom. Yeah, there you go. This is rolling with the top. This is what we got. I've got years with the department and years in position, and we may want to change that title. Right now, what we've got is kind of formulas based on wherever you recommend what we think it'll cost based on their total years. And with the earlier discussion, that's not what other counties are doing, but at least give us kind of an idea this morning where you're at. And we'll go through that. And then over here in the notes, go back, I know I'm jumping around. These are notes and things that we discovered from the individual counties. And we'll go through those in a minute. And then over here at comparisons, we try to do step points, go to the top, with other counties accounting for things like longevity, contributions to retirement, number of weeks worked, to kind of give you an idea where you're at. And I've got a number over here, and these numbers are just averages and stuff that we've played with to kind of give you an idea. So I know Eric's probably worked with it as much as anybody. So where would the other committee members like to start with the comparisons? Would we like to start with patrols, maybe? The start pay for a patrol officer? That's one of your biggest ones right now.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Or if you, would you like to start?
I guess to know where to start.
Well, and,
like-
Yeah, that's why I was going to go over this. Is the first one, we've got the
and-
deputies here, if it kind of
And
give you
if
an
I can
idea.
insert for just a second, you are really familiar with this, and you have a lot of valuable information you're saying, but there's a ton of valuable up here. And I was having a moment of overload, and I'm not sure
That's why I'm
if Eric
slowing
was
down.
too.
That's why we're going to
I
stop
think that's
here.
what I'm
If you
seeing.
want to start at deputies, we're going to start at deputies and tell you what's on this entire sheet here. That's where we're going to start. That's why I was thinking the best thing is your deputies, and it's your largest one. And the sheets is going to show you data. These aren't any kind of things that's made decisions. We've got them linked, but they're not what I'm recommending as a committee member or anything. But if we look up at the top.
And then I do have one overall question. Do these numbers have the ARPA in them?
Yes. The numbers that we're showing for Sumner County include ARPA and longevity. The numbers we're going to show for the other counties include their pay and longevity, because ARPA wasn't really involved. So it kind of gives you a more apples to apples comparison. And still, you're not going to get a completely apples to apples, because we talk about things like health insurance. You can look at that, but there's so many differences. Counties pay more or less, but they also have different coverage. Mm-hmm. And they also cover difference on tier. So I think health insurance by large is not really going to play into helping you determine a salary. It's going to muddy the water. So right now I think really kind of, and I've looked at the numbers quite a while, the three things you probably need to look at is their gross salary, which would be what they're going to, or take home, which would be based on two things: their gross pay, that longevity, try to equalize it in, and then the other thing is retirement if they have to contribute. And the only reason I think that, because some of them have a 5% mandatory retirement. So if me and you're both working for a department, and I have to, you have to contribute 5%, and the county does for you, you're both going to net the same pay on that. That's why we have that first subtotal. It'll show you net, and then the other one, some of them pay for meal breaks and some don't. But if you're paying for meal breaks, then they've got to log out. So that's just for comparative purposes. I'm not saying that really has a huge bearing. It just gives you an idea of what the 2 week looks like. I'm not saying we can consider that other than just as an ideal. I'm not saying that's a big driving factor.
And then if we could stop before we jump into the numbers and just discuss the ARPA, and I want to make sure that
Go to the total, and I can show you the number of total we have in the
I
ARPA.
want to recommend to budget that we burn through the ARPA before anything happens. Because we put that out there, it's non-reoccurring, and it confuses a lot of people. So I want to see where you guys are on.
Wherever you go with ARPA, if you're going to raise the base,
Right.
and we're trying to come to a number, we need to, right now the ARPA's a percentage, we're going to
Right.
freeze them dollars per hour to come up that same total. Kind of my deal is there's two ways you've got to find out from the budget committee and the commission by and large, are they going to cover the ARPA locally or not? If they're not, then we need to see potentially out of this money. If they're going to cover it locally, then we need to keep it into the formula, but consider the total you have available. That's my only spew on it. I don't know what the
Right.
commission's desire is, and your.
I just want to make sure that when we
Go to that.
move forward to telling them what outcomes from our meeting that we all
Just up the bottom.
have a thought of what we want to do with that ARPA.
That might-
That was my question.
Go back up and I can tell you the total.
So what I'm
total-
understanding him, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding you correctly. If I see a rate of 23.35, that was potentially 22.50 plus a buck something for ARPA.
Plus ARPA, plus longevity.
And it's all sitting in that amount.
That's the amount we're gonna be looking at.
And so,
Just so we're all on the same page.
Right, so, and this is the amount that's, ARPA, there's patrol, $627 some odd $1,000, and then in ARPA jail, there's like $172,000 for benefits.
and so in essence, the idea here is that whatever recommendation we push to budget will include ARPA into gross salary, and the ARPA line will go.
Well, we gotta consider a couple of things here. What do you wanna do? If we push it all into gross salary now, which would be the cleanest, and the extra ARPA money was, could be used for anything anyway, anything the government's allowed. Like right now, we originally had COVID risk supplements. They ended last, I believe it was April or May. So everything we're paying to the sheriff's department right now, you could do anything. So if we took it out of this money or came up local or whatever, you could take that money, for instance, to buy patrol cars now. The same 6 and 7. It's basically the ARPA that's available for anything that's an allowable government service. There's two buckets. This was out of that bucket because it's no longer allowed to be able to take it out of the bucket for the salary supplements are gone. When they ended the emergency for COVID-19, we can no longer do it as COVID salary supplements, which means it can't be taken out of the same bucket as broadband or water lines anymore. It has to be taken out of the other bucket.
This is a 10 million bucket?
Yes, it has to come out of the 10 million bucket.
Okay.
After April it did.
If we pay,
Last year.
how many years do we have left that we can supplement this as an
Till-
extra item?
Not this December, but next December. So really you need to end it in haste anyway by this
We need to end
June.
it.
Really, my thing would end it June or end it now, either way. But if you keep it in to the end of the year, we need to know, one, is the commission committed to potentially move money from debt service wherever to fund this, because there's not extra money in the general fund. The general fund don't have an extra $800,000.
But we have money today,
Yes, but this question is that what's the
but it's not
commission-
reoccurring, yeah.
3.6. What I looked at, it was on the state appropriations, and it was under the reoccurring column, but there's not a law requiring it to continue that I can tell. And I think you guys seen the same thing probably, unless you seen something different. Or you got, this one's gone.
I'm just concerned. I would recommend more towards the cleaner approach, because the ARPA is disappearing. It's not reoccurring. We don't have a state law. If we were to leave both of them without an assurance of reoccurring, we're just,
Why don't we kind of work up the numbers where you think the start pay should be in this max number here, and
Yes.
see where we fall in it? Because right now, this would be kind of in the max number, because whatever we do, this is based on total years. So what needs to happen when we get done today, it needs to go back to payroll to verify accuracy again. And number two, we need to get from the sheriff's department based on, the number of years this individual was a sergeant versus total years or a lieutenant. If that's what we want to do, which that's what I would recommend, because that seems by and large what the other counties were doing. And then the same thing, I think, like for the patrol officers, we have total, but by and large what it looked like the other counties, they were taking post-certified years with the department, or post-certified plus so many more. Like Eric knew about Gallatin, he said they take thirds plus up to 10 from another agency. So to
They
do
take
that,
their
we'll
years
need to
of
be able to work those up, but we can at least come up with a max idea where we think it should lay today. And Eric probably has an idea where some of these people, like him individually, know how long he's been chief deputy.
right.
He's been with the department 15, but he's been chief deputy a little over a year now.
And let me reiterate, just so I make sure I'm with you. So if I have two categories, A and B, and I start at A, I'm there for 5 years, and I go to B and I've been there for 2 years. If we're gonna talk about, and B being post, then I would have 2 years of,
2 years of
not
post.
7.
That's what I would recommend myself.
So we're on the same page. I wanna make sure, because
That's what I would recommend if you do that, and this is what Eric's got. People are stealing his people, and he would not say steal. They're taking his people, but by and large, we would like to be the department that can also take people. So just to be fair, if we're gonna do post-certified, I think you would, from my opinion as a member, I think we should go with post-certified plus so many years at another agency for post-certified, like 5, 10. So when you start looking at your patrols, it's, all Sumner County post-certified and
Oh,
so
yeah.
many from another agency.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, that's something the committee does need to determine, but I think I'd better explain those sheets first, where we're at. And I think that's things we need to probably on these notes, Like if you go back to notes, we probably need to put we have Sumner. Go to the top, like we can insert a row and put like note 6, how we're gonna count post-certified years for your officers, how you're gonna count sergeants and lieutenants. I think that's things we need to note out today, because we're gonna have total in there, and by and large, it's gonna be more than what it costs. Now, there may be some exceptions if you have an officer, we're showing with 2 years with Sumner, but he has 10 years with another department, we count, they may go the other direction, but by and large, no. And your jailers pretty much are gonna stay the same.
Well, yes and no. I think if we get the salary competitive, everything that I've heard is that people want to work here in Sumner County. They just can't afford to. So if we get salary competitive, I see the potential to have a bunch of corrections officers who are TCI certified, which is, TCI is the corrections equivalent of post for a road deputy, right?
Right.
Everyone has, so I would like that years of experience
For
also,
TCI
for
also.
TCI also.
So that'll flip your jailers out too.
Right, I think that would help us recruit and retain.
So that's what we need to determine and put on a note up here, what
Yeah.
we're gonna do to determine those. So,
And then-
so today, the thing we need to determine is your salaries then. If you can determine the salaries, then what we could potentially do, because we could, this meeting here, we could actually, instead of adjourning it, we could, what's it, we want to continue on?
It's almost like a table.
No, a table would cancel forever. Well, we can bring back from,
It's not adjourned, but it's
Forever.
recess. So what we could do
Yes.
is, we come up with the salaries today, you guys, we all recess, and then I don't know what everybody's schedule look like, because budget's Monday, we come back Friday again and try to look at those finalized numbers and see if we're good based on what we did. If it shoots way too high, it's way off the pace. Because right now, and the only reason I say Friday, because if we go back to the sheriff's department, it's gonna take them time to determine that. We can look through some of the files and find it, but they're gonna be the best one to
Yeah.
determine the number of years as a sergeant. Do you have people that has post-certification from another county? How many people, like right now, what happens in their sheriff's department is if you've been at the department 10 years, you're counted as a 10-year patrol officer. Well, you may have had 7 years as a corrections officer. You maybe should be on the 7-year mark with the other 7-year officers. And then the other thing I was looking at, there's a couple other things I noticed out there. There's several of those little things you're gonna run into as we go down the numbers. There's another one in my mind.
and how do you feel about that?
I'm trying to digest it. I'm not sure that I understand it completely.
Well, basically what I'm saying is right now, when we start going through yours, and we can find yours are perfectly aligned, you have 10-year people, 7, they line up by and large pretty well. Right now, you may have a 10-year officer that's 10 years post-certified right here. You may have another one that's only 3 years that become from a but you've got him over here by and large. So my thing is not shrink anybody's pay, but if he's
Oh, I
gonna
see
get a
what
boot,
you're
we're only
saying.
counting him as a 3
I see what
years.
you're saying.
Unless he's got it from another county, and you may have hired him in from another county with 10 years of experience, he may end up actually, if we count 5 years, he may end up at 8. But that's the things we're gonna have to kind of sort through to make that work. And by and large, that's what other counties are doing, post-certified plus. Jail, I don't know, we didn't look at that one as close, I didn't think about TCI, but that's a good point. We were reading massive data trying to find the important stuff out of it.
You been busy, you say?
And then
Friday was kind of
procedurally,
nightmarish.
if we're looking at a recess, and we were talking about Friday, I think I'm okay. Instead of a recess, I think it would be better to have because it's a special call, to have another notice out.
Not
and have
enough time to special call, is there, Eric, for Friday?
Be cutting it close. If I
Y'all
get it
count
out.
But you
different.
can recess.
Y'all
Well, what if
count
we-
different than my people on the resource board do.
If we recess, could we, even though it's a recess, could we still put it on our website, the same as a call, to say, hey, they're recessed until, we can still put it in.
Yeah, that's not a.
Advertise the same, but I think you really want to do a recess, because I don't think there's enough days for a special call, because it's what, 5 is what we're using? So if we didn't count the day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
Yeah,
and Friday, so you'd be 4 most of us are gonna count.
Like I said, I'm just lost in counting anymore.
Well, I don't count the day of or the day after, so I would count 4 days. That's just me, I take the conservative approach. I don't think, it'd be hard to say it's 5 days.
that's what we do as a standard policy, just to give us enough
What
wiggle
about
room.
Monday morning before budget?
And if we run into problems, well, I mean,
Well, I've been, talking to them about we want to do this, but we want to do it right. More so than, I think doing it right is more important than the rush. And every time we rush, we find something right after the rush and we go, oh.
kind of my thought is if you run into where it's too much to surmise, by then at least get the problems like the patrol officers and jailers first and then come back. But either way, there's kind of
I
a
like that
rush.
idea.
Well, there's a rush right now because Eric and them's got one. I think I talked to the guy over the jail Friday, he told me he had 42 vacancies right now. So it's went from 37 to 42. You have 8 patrol officers right now? Well, what's 7? I think you also
Yes.
know. So they have 8 patrol. So the numbers are gaining right now as we speak.
And we had one turn in his 2 weeks' notice to go to Gallatin. They're gonna offer him $31 an hour for his experience. It's crazy. He's already turned in his notice. I've got another one who's wanting to see the outcome of this. They offered him $29 an hour to come back.
So I think right now, if you could
So-
address your first, if we can't get anything else addressed because of the data by Friday, that way you can send it out to the budget committee and they can see at least those numbers. By the very bare minimum, as a committee member, I would recommend trying to address your first 10 years of your jailers and the first 10 years of your patrol
Oh, I
officers.
agree,
How-
yeah.
And then because we're gonna have to get post-certified, so there may be a mountain here, but if we take a big chunk, we still know what we have left, and we could have a meeting after budget to deal with the remainders. But right now, you've got a big bleed in your jailers.
I like the idea of the 10-year.
And this is just my view looking at things too, if it was me. Another one you probably want to look at, you've got your first 10 years on jailers, but if you're working at a jail, you want somewhere to move up, so we probably need to look closely at those sergeants and lieutenants' pays too. Because you got to think, if you're going to work at jail for the rest of your career, you probably want somewhere to move up to. And if the sergeant lieutenant's pays aren't market, then you've got the same issue, a jailer for 30 years. And that may be fine with some, but you've got people that want to move up, and it's going to cause turnover. This is my thought process, because we were looking at some of our sergeants and lieutenants.
But then,
too.
what ideally we want when we turn it over to budget is that they can understand and move forward on this work that we do today. So
A
if we
table.
give them a mountain, I like the idea of taking the 10-year bucket,
That's
10 years.
two of the big groups.
and then so that the next step up, the budget can understand what they have before them. Again, looking at doing it the best job we can all do without.
Let me qualify it. I would probably look at getting those done, like your patrol officer first 10 and your jailers to send to them Friday with
Mm-hmm.
numbers and everything. The other ones I would try to determine where you think they're going to fall. That way, like this, where we think the market is. That way, your sergeants and lieutenants currently in jail, and even your new patrol officers can kind of, because they're all going to go out if get these numbers, and they're going to start comparing them to Gallatin, what they can find online, and see if they think it's fair and how we came up with it. So the same thing if you've got a big turnover in the jail, and suddenly we've adjusted the first 10 years where you've got the turnover, we got the next 10 determined, and you've determined sergeants, lieutenants, what you think they should be, but we just don't have the numbers and we can't push forward, then at least it gives those people kind of a closure where they think we're at least trying to go toward, if that makes sense. Either way, I think those would be the best prospects of cutting some of the bleed, and Eric, he works day to day, he may have a better idea.
It's just open comments. I can comment anyhow.
Yes,
All
yeah,
right,
we're,
so-
we're having a very casual meeting.
Well, we're
Alright,
actually
good
members.
So, I'm not the sheriff, right?
I know.
Yeah,
That's
so-
well, that's another piece of it too.
So here,
Sheriff's gonna have to agree, probably they want it in writing to do this, or, because otherwise if you give him the money, he can do whatever, I mean.
right, and so I've had really extensive conversations with the sheriff on the direction that he wants to go. And I understand all his concerns, and he wants to take the balance of the money and spread it out amongst all the employees.
Yes, he
So-
and I had that discussion on Saturday.
Okay, good.
Yes,
Good, so, again, I'm not the sheriff, and that's what the sheriff wants to do.
and I expressed my thoughts on that also. We spoke for some time,
A little while?
a little
Good.
while.
And then just from a financial, and my concern is you've got some, when we're looking, it looks like they're over market, not a lot, and you have some that are considerably under market, like your jailers.
And
I'm not
that's
sure
my
that's gonna
concern.
fix your, and I understand he's coming, he wants to be fair to all of his employees, but from the financial, I'm not sure it's going to fix your problems until we look at it. And I understand where he's coming from, he wants to be fair to everybody and stop, but I'm not sure it's gonna fix the
Right,
problem.
so I see both sides of it. He's my boss, and he's the elected sheriff, and I'm gonna voice his concern, right? If we're going to go the route of the 10-year cap fixing, which in theory sounds great, let's see what it looks like in application. I'd prefer to start with the corrections side
Okay.
than the deputy side. That's my,
And that's your biggest number too, that's
Right.
your biggest, so my idea is, why don't we look, now first I'll go over the patrol to show you how it works. But my idea is, let's try to deal year 1 through 10 on corrections, figure out what you want your 20-year mark to look at, try to work up the numbers, because your department's got the supply and hours. Work up the numbers for the first 10 years and determine what you want your sergeants, lieutenants, captains, and even your jail administrator to look like. And then circle back around to your patrols. And then that may be the easiest way to follow and kind of come up with the numbers, drop them in what we think's the max. That's our max today, but we're gonna have payroll looking at some of these, and Beth and me's gonna be looking at them too. And we're gonna be trying to verify for errors and try to get additional, and you are correct, Eric, it may be TCI from other, entities. And you may be a prime example, you have 2 years from another
Right.
entity, so that'll get him some time, but he's a sergeant, we're looking at sergeant in time and rank, which was what I would recommend based on what the other counties are doing. Whereas if you're a 2-year sergeant and a 10-year employee, you're still a 2-year sergeant, or detective, or whatever you are. And you guys may have a different take, but that's what we've seen by and large in other counties.
The only issue I would see with that in application is if the guy's been there 8 years, wants to be promoted to sergeant, but the sergeant start out is lower than the 8 years. You see what I'm saying?
We'll have to look at those.
We'll have to
two
make sure
tables.
that
We'll have
levels
to look
out.
at the two tables and see, and this will be a table for the adjustment here. I'm not trying to any way promote a salary scale because I'm not getting involved in that's more of a commission thing, but this will look like a salary scale, but it's really just a table to set you up for this year for all your adjustments. If that makes sense, that's kind of where I'm coming from. It looks like one, but I'm not pushing, we just gotta have it to find marks to adjust people, if that makes sense.
And as we look at this, it looks like a salary scale because that's the best way really to look at this and to actually administer it.
Well, that's the way we're.
And then everybody knows where they're at.
And that's one of the largest complaints I hear from people when we talk about recruiting. Hey, what's your step scale?
Yeah,
we don't have
one.
Oh,
And that's,
yeah.
And then the other thing is the other counties by and large had one except for Williamson, but Williamson we couldn't do because Williamson has different scales for like if you've got a degree or non-degree. So we tried to take their pay and actually break it into groups by years and it didn't, because we don't know who's got a degree and pre, so it wasn't even usable. So we did use the start pay of Williamson, but we didn't use anything after start because we couldn't determine what they got. And we didn't get a response from Hendersonville, so as we're going through this, Eric may want to tell us what Hendersonville is from his data, because he had it, we didn't realize that. And we can see if it, but
and then before we jump, and I'm sorry to keep, I know I'm anxious to see it too. I am. Legally, something that Mr. Long pointed out is that we're making some assumptions, but in the end, it is Sonny's decision. But as the commission will have this before them, there are assumptions that we're going to make, I hope, and we're going to ask. And Sonny would have to we either agree or not agree, or if there's legal pieces involved in that. And I don't know if you can keep a running total of things that we're talking about here.
let me tell you something here
Yeah.
that's important. The sheriff
Yeah, tell us
and
how
the
that
county
works.
mayor within their budget have to get a salary agreement, so it's gonna have to
Yes.
be amended. The question is, it doesn't spell out those individuals. The other one is a salary suit, which we don't want, and we're past 30 days, so there's not even a possibility of a salary suit. So this money here, the sheriff couldn't even petition for, because we're past 30 days and started
Right.
the budget.
I
But
understand
the
that.
question being is, I think it's an understanding, and Eric may have, that the commission and the sheriff needs to get it, that they're going to follow this if that's what they're given $3.3 million.
And that's one of the things that I'm going to recommend that we do. So I'm tasking you during this meeting to any legal assumptions that we're all discussing that we might want to circle back and make sure that we put in writing so that we all agree to protect both sides. And not that we're, but to make sure that what we discuss in an assumption, actually we deliver on.
And so would
That-
would that resolution not read that the budget committee and the full commission are putting this money in these lines?
But it still wouldn't spell out. Like, in other words, if we put $1 million in patrol officer, that's as good. He could spread it 5,000 per patrol officer if he wanted to.
I see what you're saying.
Because all he's gotta do is get an agreement with the county mayor, and, the mayor's agreement won't have those details either, so it's not saying anything about John, that's just the way it works. We're not saying anything about the mayor neither, but that's
You
just the way it
saying
works.
total versus allocation here?
By allocation, you probably
Yeah,
are
okay.
gonna want a written agreement for allocation if you
Yes.
would do
That is what
I see.
I'm
It's not gonna,
petitioning
the budget,
you
the
to
resolution wouldn't do
consider.
it.
Got it.
So you would break down every total for every employee by their position and say you're agreeing if we amended to do this.
Well, and if you get and I think I see where you're coming from, as far as a legal standpoint from this specific ad hoc, whatever you want to call this, it's still got to get ratified, so this is all just a thinking game until it reaches the level of
But we will not
But you're
discuss
gonna
it
get
at this detail
recommendations.
again. Hopefully.
But I'm saying this
I
committee may
understand
wanna
that, but-
recommend a written agreement.
Yeah, I understand that, and if that's the whole purpose of this is to reach that agreement, is my understanding.
Right.
Well, why don't somebody just make a motion, because we could do a motion that before, whatever we move forward, that we motion that the sheriff gets an understanding and a written understanding that he is agreeable with this and willing to do it, versus just spreading it. That's the easiest way to do it.
And as a member, I'll second your motion.
I guess that's my motion now. And I understand if Eric may have to vote against it, but
Yeah.
I don't know which
Yeah,
way.
and,
But
and being a 3.
But he's gonna
It-
have to see something first.
Exactly. We would just like,
But when we do have something.
I would
then
just
I'm
like to
saying-
consider that, and I'm just tasking you with the task of, there may be some details as we go through this that we might forget. It's gonna be a,
Oh, yeah, that's why I'm here.
I know.
Yeah, I didn't come here 'cause
so I was just making
bored.
sure that, I thought you just enjoyed this. Do we pay you?
I don't know. It's a good question. Do they?
You just not by the hour though. That's why we can use him all we want.
So
Kind of
I,
like me
to clarify, I'm just saying that
and Eric.
I see that as a product, and if there are items in it, I want to highlight them as we go along.
Well,
And both for your side and for the commission side, and what we need.
I make a motion that we recommend anything that we forward onto the budget, that they get an understanding that the sheriff's agreeable with it and willing to sign off on it before it's,
Okay.
we recommend sending it to commission. He's willing to go by
I
those
second that. I definitely think the sheriff needs to be involved and have an understanding and agree.
and willing to sign off on it. That way,
Yes.
that way there's not the argument, hey, he did something different than this agreement, that the sheriff is willing to do it.
So, everyone, it's so awkward
All
with
in
the three,
favor?
yeah, all in favor, say yay.
Uh,
Aye. And against? It passes. We'll have a work product to,
And let me go up to the comparison sheet. So what we try to do was to get you the most apples to apples to get starting certain bid levels where you actually have employees, so we had to kind of move it around. And we tried to use the 10-year mark, and we looked at the 20. The only county we could find with a 20-year grouping was actually Rutherford County, which they're not one of your higher paid counties. So when we come in, the first thing you can look at is, if you look across the top, it'll just give you a description. It says deputies, and this would be step 1 or year 1 post-certified. It's just say that for now once we determine that. This is what Sumner County has, and this is what all the other counties has. We've included the longevity already in that number when we worked it up, so I blacked it, but this is what the other, which year 1 has nothing, but if you look down step 10, you can see it better. Longevity, you can see what kind of effect it has. It has a little bit, like 38, not a lot. The other one is, and this is what we've got, we have a defined benefit plan that the county contributes all the funds. Several of the other counties have that, but Robertson County requires them to contribute 5, Williamson requires them to contribute 5, and then Gallatin requires them to contribute 5, and they're actually on a hybrid, I know that. So they contribute a lot less than we do. So that kind of comes out with sort of an equalizing mark. The other thing, just for your comparative purposes, we pay for every 2 weeks 84, 86, so if you come back, based on, the difference that would make on 2 years, that would be kind of what it would adjust your salary based on the number of hours difference to come out with a 2-week total if you did the same. And I'm not saying by any way that I'm recommending any of these numbers, but these are just to give you an idea of an average on the side. Did the same thing with 10 years, kind of roll on down.
How did Wilson
Go
go to 3119?
Some of them have some.
Well, it says 3081.
Where were you at? It picked up 38 cents for their longevity, made 31.19.
Oh, okay, I'm with you.
Yeah, and then if they have to pay retirement, they should have been minus off, which Wilson go back up. It doesn't, they do the same retirement we do, and they're over there on the notes. So if we go back to the notes and we start looking, go down to Wilson, it'll kind of tell you a good example. Wilson, which somebody wiped that out about there, so we've not got a good answer on them. Longevity to $100 per year after the second year of employment, that's where that came from. Wilson is on just like us, they contribute 11.42, we contribute 11.28. So their retirement's very comparable with ours. If you go up to, what was the county, the smaller county that we've seen a lot of, was it Robertson? Go back down to Robertson. Robertson County, employees contribute 5%, and they have, as far as we know, it's the legacy. And then if we go to Gallatin, let's go to Gallatin, that's why these are important. There, go back up. Gallatin, if we go to retirement, City of Gallatin's on the TCRF's retirement, the employees are required to contribute 5%, and the city only contributes 4%. So it's a big difference. Not only they get 5 out of their pay, but the city only contributes 4%. Now, they do a matching, I think it's a 401, but still that doesn't make up for that 7 point some odd percentage there. So let's go back to
Can you, I'm sorry, can you do Gallatin again? I was trying to,
they're on a hybrid plan.
okay.
So the hybrid plan, they contribute 5% plus the city contributes 4%. The hybrid's different than ours. Ours is a legacy defined benefit. It's a better plan. So ours is a better plan, plus we contribute all, they have to contribute 5%.
Right.
I think let's don't really look at the benefits, but I think we do need to look at the 5%. But my other thought on the 5%, if the 5% is not helping us recruit employees anywhere across the county, what we do have a right to do, it wouldn't affect existing employees, but we can set it the way all new employees through TCRS are required to contribute 5% like those other ones. So if we wanted across the board, say everywhere we're having turnover, and when everybody tells everybody about the retirement, the employees doesn't attract employees or retain them, we could come back as a county, change that, and what it would do is allow you 5% more from retirement up to gross salaries all across the board everywhere.
So retirement's a separate conversation we can have.
It does affect what you bring home each day, because
Right.
if you're netting that 5% out, that's why it's in here. But if we're going to, my thought process, if we want to bring up the salaries again, you may want at some point look at the retirement too, possibly new employees are contributory. And possibly somewhere in the future even look at the hybrid plan, because we all know the defined benefit plans are dying because they're very expensive.
They are.
We're the last generations of them, I would dare say.
So how are you feeling about that, the retirement piece that we're discussing?
Let's go to the jailers.
Do you want to save that for the end? Save that for a Friday if we come back? Have time, it's a,
I think so.
yeah, I just wanted to pull it out and say, I think that you would want to go back and discuss that with your team.
When we start parching
But for now, we're just gonna make apples to apples with it.
right now, when we start parching the jailers, let's see how much it affects them. Because, if it's affecting, because we're kind of minusing it out to do a comparison. If we think, hey, it'd be better to have the higher jailers and to get rid of the retirement, then we can kind of make a note about that and start looking at those. And then the thing is, it'll affect everybody in the county. I'm not really, this is another one we have to check on. The schools and the the classified but not the certified, they follow the same TCRS plan as us. So I'm not sure if that would affect them. We were gonna have to check that. I think it does.
How long would it take you to check that?
Can you send Tony a text or to see if she finds out? I think it would. That'd be our only other drawback. But I'm saying a lot of counties are moving that direction.
Yeah.
And that would be another, maybe you want to discuss it with the schools too, because it would affect them because they have quite a number of classified employees.
This whole conversation feels like it's moving more towards financial management than budget. As we're
It could,
going in a different.
but I believe right
yeah.
now the thing to figure out how the 5%.
Is this,
The same thing if we do the 5% on the schools and they decide, hey, we could raise all of our gross salaries that same dollar 5%. They may be wanting to do that too because they're having retention problems, I'm sure.
I know,
like
and
everybody else.
it also depends on if the TISA model takes that into consideration with the new teacher salary, because I'm sure.
I don't think it did. I thought it did
I don't
based
know.
on the number of if you're the type of student it is, but I don't know.
But you know how that could really play differently with that model.
We're on correction officers. So here's your example of correction officers. Sumner County, you can see the 2030, 2249, 25, 2055, 25, 18, and then we do the average. If we do the average is 2148, as a member of the committee, I don't think 2148 is going to, because Sumner County is more expensive to live in, I don't think that's going to do what you want it to do.
So we're looking at row 26. Is that what you just wanted to know? I'm sorry.
Can I take a small break? I drank like 48 ounces of coffee and ran down here. I'm sorry. Let you give you a minute to digest that, and I'll be right back.
Miss Blaine, it's really hard to see with
The blinds. Oh, we can take care of that.
Thank you.
I find this screen hard to see, but for the crowd, I don't. I've spoken many times to
But it was really
people
hard.
about if we could
Thank you, Max.
It doesn't have a swivel on it, does it? It does. Can we swivel it to them?
Okay.
Oh, I can see it better now. I'm just gonna see
Well,
the light.
over here. I'm not sure. Is that better? Everybody?
I see a picture and zoom in anyway.
Is there a way that we could get screen print, or if we could get the presentation on paper, I just like to scribble, but the audience might be able to see it better. But I don't know how many, or how it is. We'll ask David when he comes back. So I'd just like to make a note for the retirement that we're going to bring it on Friday if we're actually discussing about coming back together. I mean, while David's gone, we can discuss that for a minute.
Can anything we do with retirement in regards to the sheriff's office happen without affecting the rest of the county?
I don't
It's-
think
it's
so.
a countywide
Not
decision,
while,
right?
but not based on what I'm hearing from Mr. Long. And then that brings me back to some prior conversations he and I have had regarding that. And then again, I think the biggest piece of that would be the new education funding, because they're holding schools accountable, and they're going to make, and I want the teachers paid the 50, but then if it's going to be more of this moving the retirement to make it, then it's a big difference in the actual pay. So a lot of these things that we're looking at do affect the county employees, and they have needs also.
Right.
So I guess with the retirement, we'll be waiting for when since you're away, I was just talking about the retirement, we're gonna push it to Friday, and the chief made a good point that we'll need to know by Friday if it affects the whole county or just the
It'll
sheriff's office.
affect
And
the county, but we don't know if it affects the schools, and I think it does, but we'll verify. We know it'll affect every other office in the
so when we
county.
come back Friday, hopefully finance will have that answer, and then you'll have,
Right, but does it affect schools also?
Yeah, that's what I asked her.
So it affects all, including schools. So it may be a question, is do you use a commissioner slash chairman may want to send out to some of the department heads here and the schools and ask them how their general take is. Would it be helpful, because that 5% could be reallocated into salaries, and it may be a very good tool, and it won't affect your existing employees. You're not going to have an employee that's been here 5 years and planning on retirement, doing all this, and suddenly changes anything. It's not going to change them.
I
So these
get
will
it.
be people's expectations from day one. But maybe a good question for you might want to email out to them and ask them.
Mayor,
I'm making notes as we speak.
does that mean you're taking this as a to-do item to
And I
contact
think the
them?
question being phrased, would you rather reallocate the 5% for starting pays for new employees versus paying 5% of the retirement? Because you've got to think of these young employees. You're coming here and you're saying, hey, you're giving the salary 5% higher. They're not worrying about that retirement age. Now, somebody my age coming in may.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Should, but do they? I don't know.
TCRs didn't mean anything to me when I was 19 and got hired here, but now it does.
Mhm.
So,
And I'm a finance person, so I'm a little weird. So when I've got started, I'm like,
Well,
what's a
I-
retirement
actually-
look like? Do I want to
actually-
pay?
I think
I'm
that I was right
planning
there with you. I was
forever.
just thinking I would be in that bucket with you.
Well, I started planning forever since I was born, I think, so it doesn't matter. I was looking at it, so it's kind of can go both ways. Eric's probably more toward the, say, average of what's going on. They don't care.
I wouldn't say they don't care.
It's
They don't
just-
care as much as they would the
Understand
5%. They need the 5% more now than later.
I think
to get their decals on their cars.
benefits.
But think about this, if you are a 20-year-old employee, have a child to keep up and a spouse, and you're struggling, you'd probably rather have the 5% now than later. And it's gonna make a retention difference, just to be fair.
When you send them out the email, could you ask them for a quick return? So that we could not just have it on Friday, if we could have it, if they could respond by.
Your biggest numbers in the schools.
Yes, I know.
They've got the largest number of those employees affected by far.
I'll
So-
reach out to Director today and ask him if he can do that as well.
Yeah, and if we
Just some
could,
type of informal poll is what you're looking for.
Would they rather
What they'd all be-
reallocate
yeah.
the 5% of the start pay versus the retirement's really what it looks like.
and I agree with Mr. Long. I think this is a good way to get more money in people's pockets immediately and stop the bleeding more departments than just the sheriff's. Thank you, Mayor.
But if you kind of go back to the sheet, if we look at that subtotal average of 2148, just from my general opinion, from 2030 to 2148 is a little over 2,000, 84 hours, so probably like $2,500 a year. I'm not kind of my thought process, I don't think that's gonna fix your problem in the jail. I think you're gonna have to lean toward, the higher county like Williamson significantly. Kind of my thought process is I would recommend checking out for now $24 an hour, put it in that table and see how it kind of costs
Yeah,
out.
it comes out.
That's my thought process.
I second the motion.
I know it's a high pay, but you've got a jail in a area that's growing and a high cost county. I mean, that's,
But maybe not all the way to Williamson, maybe not all the way to the 24. That's a big leap from 21 to 24.
2350.
Can we start at 24 and then we can claw it back as,
By the time, but as we go, we spend through the money.
But my thought is if we start with 24 here, we can do the 10-year mark lower and let you gain money quicker if we need to too. The problem you've got right now is getting people to start, and then you've got a retention issue too, but your start's a big.
Okay.
So, but I mean, 23.
But I just want room to
24
grow, that's
and-
where I'm at. You know, I see what you're saying, start attractive,
Right,
but I'm looking at room to grow that we can afford.
Eric seconded. Do we want to vote on the 24, or do you want to? I mean, I'm fine with either 2350, 24.
well, are we, this is fluid, right? We're discussing
Yeah,
this.
Well,
let's
let's
just,
go to the other.
let's just like
Go
run it
over
through
to
the
all the way.
scenario.
Go over to the tables. Let's show them what all it affects. What we're doing. Hit
You want to
hit
withdraw your
steps.
motion?
Hit steps. Hit steps.
Withdraw.
Hit steps. Okay, go down to your patrol officer.
Yeah. That's all right.
Go down to patrol officer. No, I'm sorry, not patrol. Go on to jail or corrections officer. Okay. If you look, I've got like whatever we got over there pegged in there for now.
And so when you
We'll
say,
change it over there and it'll pull over. We'll change it right here and it will go over here.
and when you say change it right here, would you mind hitting the line you're on?
It hit the 2148, doesn't it? The 2148. The yellow.
Thank you.
The yellow, hit the,
Sorry.
there you go. Any yellow fields, the ones you'll fill, and kind of my thought, if you hit that, that's 2148 to that comparison sheet, but that, hit the 10-year. Yeah, well, you're fine. I know I'm kind of, same thing as comparison. I hit the one in between. Yes, that one. This formula here gives them an equal compounding from year one. So if you look under it, it's the 1.9% increase if that's what you do.
So that's the spread.
So that shows your spread, and the spread, as long as you change the yellows, we don't start changing somewhere else, then these spreads will be equal. If we need to change that, then I need to go in and change those formulas because they're not, they can't deal with that. But so go in there and type in, yes, I'm going to make a motion, I guess, again, $24.
Can we just step it, can we step towards the 24 in this example? Can we see what?
I'll make a motion for
23
$23.50.
Well, then we got to withdraw the
Okay,
24.
I'll withdraw my 24 motion and make a motion for $23.50. Is that better?
Just for simplicity's sake, do we need a motion every time we change this, or can we discuss and then make a motion to accept it at the
I
end?
would
Yeah,
like that.
okay.
Why don't we
Thank
do
you.
the patrol officer and make a motion? Let's just try $23.50.
Let's just,
Because we're not going to have an idea anyway because we don't have those.
and we'll
total
save the
costs.
motion till we're all happy with
Let's do
something more
read.
solid.
$23.50.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now here's
How's your
where
wrist?
I was going to show Eric, if we look at the 10-year mark of your jailers, I know that's going to move. Sumner right now is 22.48. If we use that average, it comes in at 25.46. I know that's a small spread, but that's a fairly good gain by itself already. And maybe it's not enough because I don't know where I know you're having trouble getting people at the beginning, and we're having a lot of beginning turnover. Do we have a lot of 8, 9-year people turnover too, or not?
I didn't bring my spread, but I made a sheet.
I have
You have
one
one
too,
that you
but
can-
it's on my desktop
Oh, the
computer.
turnovers.
Yeah, mine's
And
on
then,
a
Sarah,
scrap
what do you
somewhere.
remember about where the terms at?
I feel like this should be quick.
Go back. To
I felt
go back
like
to
the term was
comparison.
like 5 years, 5 and 7, that's where I think I remember I was looking at
It's
and
normally-
feeling like it was
Go back
there.
at the comparison, see where we're at. I'm sorry.
And I also got a report from CTask, and I think that they said about in there, and I thought, well, that compares to what I was looking at.
See, Robertson looks like it's the one that's, because we're using 25.46. Robertson's the ones that's skewing it. And honestly, as we look at Robertson, they have a huge spread there, 4%, and they're telling us they're giving longevity too. That's up to them. I'm not so sure they're going to have a 6% growth to fund all those salaries or for. I don't know. Not wanting to speak illy of others, but we go look at their spread, but their spread's pretty far compared to other counties.
Rutherford?
No,
Oh,
Robertson.
Robertson, oh, yeah.
Robertson has
I
a
was like,
huge
I didn't
spread
see
on
that on
their
Rutherford.
whole deal there. So if we do the 2546, other than Montgomery would be the second highest. Do we maybe use Montgomery's? Look at Montgomery at 2553, or do we want to use something even higher than that?
Where are you talking about the 2553? Okay, I see it. Never mind.
Line
The subtotal.
35,
Got it.
right?
Yeah, that would make them the second highest once we adjust for that. And I think Robertson's going to be a problem all the way around on all these because they've got a huge spread.
And
And I'm not sure how they're going to afford to cover that spread every time.
And then before we go forward, I know that we didn't get Hendersonville numbers until late, and
They
we're
don't
not.
have jail.
They don't have a
But
jail.
we'll get to
That's the
patrol.
reason.
It'll be a
We'll get
discussion in patrols.
Okay, thank you.
That's
That
why we
was
want
why I
Eric
was
to
like,
give it
I
to
couldn't
us.
figure out why I couldn't see them.
But Eric's going to give it
Yeah,
to
I've
us
got it
when we
here.
get to the patrol unit.
So we're in the 10-year corrections bucket.
Right.
And what was your recommendation? What were you thinking?
I'm going to recommend the 2546, but if we've got turnover, you may want to look at the 2553 or even higher. But Robertson's really skewing the numbers, what you got going on.
Oh,
Montgomery's
so
cheaper, but my other thing is Montgomery's cheaper to live down in Montgomery than it is Sumner. Rutherford's generally lower, and then Wilson's kind of comparative to us, and they're down to 2285. But I don't think.
I think Montgomery.
I'm thinking 2546 because Robertson's pulling us up. It's probably a good number, but
I think it's a good number, and I know through talking with other agencies, Wilson County's doing the same thing we're doing right now. They're looking at.
so they're skewing us low. So if we look at that, then we may just want for now try the 2546 or everybody order a little higher.
Can you go back to that?
Go back to
The steps.
And actually, I created myself a sheet of where I thought numbers should be. And actually, my numbers came up higher than that, so I guess I should go with that.
Should we go
No.
higher? I mean,
You like that?
Well, now, wait a second.
I didn't show you my
So-
sheet.
let me give you a few here.
So I'm
There's
good with
two things.
25.
If you're working in the jail and you want to stay in jail, you're going to need something enough to keep you wanting to be
I
there
know,
long
I know.
term.
And I was referring back, and I see where I was
And
thinking.
being promoted to a sergeant or lieutenant or potentially even the jail administrator at some point, a lot of people's going to need something to work toward to there too, if they're not going to stay necessarily. So you're going to need your sergeants, lieutenants, going to need to be pretty close, and even your jail administrator is what we're kind of looking at.
So I'm in agreement.
Correctional officers.
Going over to the 20-year mark. I know a lot of them don't have 20.
See, that's what I'm wondering.
But
Are they able to pay
they're no
for
good.
it? They gotta have-
Click on that. What I looked at the 20-year mark was Rutherford, and that's quite a haul up from Rutherford.
When you say quite a haul up, could you
Well,
clarify?
from 2368 to 2867. It'd be like $10,000 per employee, or about 12.
We're much bigger.
So it'd be about $12,000 per employee right there for everybody at the 20-year mark. Do we want to leave it there, or do we want to notch it down a little to get higher in your patrols because you pay run out of money? We're using Rutherford there, but they're at 2867. Yours are at 2368. What we've seen for your 20-year markers. As you're saying, we use these markers in total years, so they may vary either direction a little bit. But we're trying to get your best marker where we think you're at. So this thing isn't perfect.
Where are we on these outliers, the salaries that are outlying? As we look at this and the huge difference in the hourly, how close are we getting to justifying some of those extreme outliers?
What do you mean?
The ones that are making more than the average.
Most of your like jailers and patrols and all this, like the sheriff's department by and large, they're all grouped and banned pretty well, but they're banned on number of total years with the department by and large. So most of yours aren't terribly out. When we get to it, they'll be like the whole group of an outlier.
Outlier.
There's not like an individual's just
Okay.
suddenly paid a weird amount. The sheriff's department's in civil service, so there's
There's,
pretty much rhyme and reasoned out there. When we get to those, we'll show you if we see any, but we don't see them.
so this is taking the spread, and where did we start here? Are we at our current pay here or at 23?
Why don't we, if you
What was
got
our
the-
step one in this category?
2350.
Okay, let's put
2350.
27 there and just see what that spread looks like.
Yeah,
See if it gets that 0.89 closer. No, let's put, try 28 in there. No, hit escape, you're on the wrong column. Oh, there you go. Or wrong row, I'm sorry, 28. Do 2750.
That's gonna put you lower than.
Put 2775. That gives you a fairly close spread all the way across from the beginning if you do that. You kind of see what I'm looking at. Plus it gives you quite a raise you're what, almost $4 an hour, and how many hours are they working? You're going to hit on the comparison we do. Huh? 8.4? So if you do 8.4 times 260 times that hourly rate difference, you're looking at what? Still near $10,000. So you're looking at your 20-year people. That's going to create an incentive, I would dare say, more than what you got to stay. To get you a little.
Plus overtime. Do we know how the other counties do overtime? Do we know how the other counties do overtime? Is it like ours? They prime no matter what,
Yes.
They prime their jails no matter what.
and they can work as much as they want.
I don't think it's as much as they want. I think it's as manpower dictates.
But ours will be that way. Same
Yeah.
if we, is that my thing? You got to remember this. We're using this large budgetary
Right.
savings for the county. If we fix the jail and sheriff's department, that budgetary savings in your general fund is going to shrink. So we're going to have a tighter general fund. We've got to remember that.
We're gonna have a what general fund?
Tighter general fund because
Oh,
you guys are
tighter.
turning in millions of dollars that's helping fund the budget. So we got to remember all that too. They're all interlinked.
But hopefully if we fill these vacant positions, they won't have so much to turn back in. I mean, it's.
Well, if you don't, what I'm saying is you're taking your revenue expenditure, there's always been a difference. The turn-in and conservative revenue projections is what's making that difference. And we've been doing positive pretty far the last couple of years because of a good economy, but we all can see right now the economy's at best questionable.
Yes.
They can say whatever they want to, but we all
Oh, I know.
got common sense, we can see what's going on.
It's $8,700 at $4 an hour.
So that would get you $8,700 for every $4, and it's a little over $4 an hour.
And
so-
that's a 20-year.
So your 20-year
I
person's
mean,
gonna pick
that's-
up $8,700, so I think that's and plus you've got a very low spread right there too. Less than 1% if you did an actual scale, it'd be less than 1% a year you'd have to fund toward it on top of cost of living. Kind of thought on that. So I'm not. Do we want to look at the sergeants and lieutenants, the sergeants next, or do we want to?
Yeah, I'm just wondering how it's hitting the bottom line as we go through.
Go over and hit that Sumner County total. Right now, based on just years of service of what you've got in there, and we haven't changed, like patrols up.
Yeah, we haven't done much.
It's $2.1 million right now.
All right,
Benefits.
I'm just, and if we can pop back.
We'll
and
keep
forth.
flipping back.
Yeah,
and
let's do
forth.
that, and I'll keep a,
So right, and the question is, we need to determine how much you do have available.
so right now we are at, and I think, were we deciding on 2350 then?
Do you guys?
I mean, we're not
wanna
voting, we're just talking.
Yeah.
change? These are just temporary. Why don't we do this and that? You see how they're yellow? Where we're- Can you make those like a light purple, the ones that we have been changing? That way we know what we're kind of temporarily put in there. It makes it easier to go like too.
Yes, thank you.
We'll do that every time, try to use a different color. Let's go with sergeants. Sergeants jail, okay. Let's go over to the comparison sheet too, that'll give kind of an idea of what we're looking at. Sergeant, you just passed it. Charlie, right there. This is what we're looking at now. Now, Sumner counties, we've got to remember, what we've got into your sergeants right now is your years of service with Sumner County, not TCI, so it could go either direction. But this by and large shows you what the other counties, and they're doing it, and I think that's probably a discussion we need to have probably right now is how you guys want to count years of service before we keep going on. Because that will make a difference, because the other ones are counting years in that position. So if we count total years, it's going to skew us up.
Mhm.
Probably, so.
And then I think one of the questions to walk away with from the commission side, speaking for me and the others we need to discuss, is the county as a large, we're willing to pay for getting more, which is a more certified force. So, a commitment from your side, if we're bringing more money, that you're actually gonna, find people to get them certified, and if we're going to split them between
Well, I think
TCI
most of his
and.
people are. He's got,
Yeah.
most of his people are TCI and
Everybody.
post, except for a few of the guards down in the courthouse. They're getting that way. They're moving on
Yeah,
post.
so with this discussion is that you would be willing to have a salary structure which would have those two components going forward, something for you to discuss with Sunny, if you're willing to have that.
He's
I
saying
mean,
a
you're,
pre-TCI. I think she's saying a pre-TCI. I don't think you can have a pre-TCI person.
No,
in the jail.
because
They gotta be.
Yeah, within 12 months of hire date, we send them. That's
So step one would be
mandatory.
pre-TCI the first year, you could have a first year.
And then they're
If
mandatory.
they don't
have
after
to
that,
go.
then they're pretty much gone.
And we have to send them, per post rules, you have to send them to the academy within 6 months of being promoted to a patrol deputy.
Do you have to send them to the academy, or can they do, was it the academy?
We don't allow that at the sheriff's office.
Good.
We send everyone to Toledo. That's the
I
state
like that.
academy. That's the standard. That's where we send everyone.
Good question.
We don't allow go to Walter State or anything.
Good.
Toledo's it.
Insert some row, insert a couple of rows under number 5 there, and then you probably have to decolor I'm sorry, under numbers. It'll be out of order, but let's put it above the longevity discussion, we fix it later. Give them a couple more rows, because we're gonna do, so the first one you've really got is your corrections officer. So you wanna count probably correction officers, TCI certification with the county. Well, probably day one is a correction officer with the
Yes.
county, because you give them, and then any pre-service up to 3 years maybe? Does that sound fair based on what other counties? If you're TCI somewhere else up to 3 years? Does that sound?
So they
pretty
come
fair?
in, and they're certified for 2 years, so we take them in at 2 years,
As a 2-year
and then they
program.
start counting up.
Right. Or if you've got at the 3 years, you'd start at Mark 3. If you start, say we want to go hire somebody from another jail because we're short, and what's going to help us is you can start at year 3 up to year 3 based on. I think I read that somewhere where I came up with 3.
And then
Yeah.
just so that your policy determines when they count, you could make them count like July 1st, or you can make them count their anniversary date.
I would
or-
count anniversary
I would-
date, but that's what we've got in here now based on your longevity.
And that's what I like. I just want to make sure that it's included.
I like anniversary date as well.
We would annualize the budget, but give them
Yeah.
raises on the anniversary. Because right now we do longevity, we do the same for all on their longevity pay across the county.
Yeah.
And that's what most are doing. What we got back from most of them, you get a raise on your anniversary date for the step scale, and then you get a cost of living on the cost of living day. That's what they told us. But I'm not sure how they keep the scale moving, because the scale is like, I'm not really sure how they're keeping that without double doing it, but we would have to talk to them, if we looked at something like that. But that's what we were told by a couple of them, because we've talked to them a lot. I think they all want to get us to quit bothering them, to be honest. Right now, up to 3 years, so did you write them? I'd write correction officers, or that's what we're doing.
That's what those are.
For correction officers.
And you feel good with the 3-year mark. And this is one of those assumptions that I'm talking about for this legal going forward that we're looking at. Because, if we're funding this, and then, let's just say, not that y'all would, but the sheriff's office decides, no, we want it to be up to 10 years. And then suddenly, the budget just went out the door. So these are some of the assumptions that I was referring to that we might have into some type of agreement.
I think pre-service for the corrections guys up to 5 years increases my ability to recruit new employees. I do. I think that if we could pay them for their experience up to 5 years, we would be in a good position.
You can, yeah.
I think.
Recruiting efforts would be better.
Yes.
And I see that. I just want to make sure that we're clear on where we're going with this, and that,
Okay.
What?
I'm going to be like looking for some agreement, so.
Right.
I want you
And
comfortable
then it's
with where we're
day
at.
one and day one with the county, put pre-service up to 5 years, correction officers, day one with the county. That way it gives you credit for that first. Like if you timely go to the academy and get TCI, kind of my thought process, if I was a new employee, I'd want to be fairly accounted for that first year in that position as a jailer. Maybe not a patrol, but it's a start position.
Do people come in for wanting a career in the corrections? Or does everyone come in wanting that upper mobility into patrol?
No, I think that we certainly have people that come in that want the career in corrections. That's an environment they're comfortable in and they're successful in, and that's what fits their personality type. I think we do. We've got several that have been there, I think since 2001 is our longest tenured. You probably,
Possibly.
I think it's 2001. So we have, yes, I think we have career corrections employees.
I think paying the sergeants and lieutenants market is going to help too.
Mhm. I just want to make sure
We've got two different
Yeah.
paths to stay there long-term to get fairly paid as a correction officer, or number two, if you want to work hard and move upward to sergeant lieutenant, then you've got something to be good for, other than leave the jail. Because otherwise you're leaving the jail to go to patrols or to whatever. And then the other one on the sergeants, I think kind of what we're getting is, it's the number of years in that position is what we're getting. But the question being is, okay, I think the jail administrator, prime example. Do we put him as a year one? He's been a
Yeah.
jail administrator somewhere else for many years.
Yes.
But they're all doing that because I think they kind of try to build it into the pay, so that's when I think you kind of need to,
So then we're talking, are we gonna talk about different
But-
pre-service based on category?
but I think sergeants and lieutenants,
So-
they start with years, and what we're looking at from their data and what we're getting back from what we understand, and Eric may get something if he may want to talk to him closer, is the number of years in that position in that organization. Once you become a sergeant, if you're a 3-year sergeant, like if you're in the organization 5 years to become a sergeant, then you restart your sergeant counts there year one with it. Because we find
And that's-
19-year people with 3-year detectives and 20-year people that are 4-year sergeants all over the data we look at.
And I see it, that's really nice and clean, but I see from their standpoint, that's gonna be a hard sale.
Well, maybe give them up to 3 years pre-service.
And, yeah, so here we started with 3, and now I've talked Eric into 5.
But why don't we, on those, let's go look at the data first and see what we think the data compared to ours, what we really think's going
Yeah.
on. Because so we got that one, let's go back to look at the sergeant data and the comparison first, and kind of give us an idea of what's going on. So right now, our step 3 is the earliest we have 3-year sergeant. That'd probably, unfortunately, it's probably the individual here, and I didn't mean to point you out if we did. But that's probably him. And if we look, the average for that 3-year is 2790 right now. So go back to the steps and see how much, for instance, I think we put the 2790 in there, yeah. So Sumner would start at 2790, and honestly, if you do year for year, it's pretty much gonna be pretty good sized adjustments for your sergeants, but I don't know about that pre-service, how you should handle it or not. Do you say give them credit if they're in the same exact position in another entity, like if they prove they were a sergeant?
Well, the problem with that though is that they can't walk in and be hired as a corrections sergeant because of civil service. They have to come in and be a corrections officer for a specified amount of time before they can be eligible to go through the promotions process.
But you're gonna start as 2790, well, on the average compared to right now, our 3 years at 2438, so how many hours they work, so that's
84.
So 3.90 times what? So how much are we looking at, Bethany? 390 times 8.4 times 260. Will be probably near $10,000 out there. Well, let me rethink of that. Let's rethink the whole thing right here. Because if we're having him as a 3-year sergeant, he'd move down to a 1-year sergeant, because he told us he's been there for 1 year, correct? So if we moved him there, it'd be 2438 to 2790. So 2790 minus 2438 times 8.4 times 260 would be 8.4.
Yes.
Okay, 8.4 times 260.
So if he comes over from another agency and he's been a sergeant there, he still has to go into corrections
Yes.
here. And then, can you hold his time for when he gets back up to sergeant to add in?
I think
But would that make sense at that point?
I know, does it make sense?
I think it's
kind of really
really
messy.
I think really your sergeants and lieutenants, if they're built correctly, are to catch for all the time you've had to spend to get there.
Right.
That's why we got a sandwich that's affecting,
Just under 77.
so he'd
Do
be
you-
$7,700 adjustments for, I think that's probably getting closer to market.
Do you need
Is what we're
to
looking at, but I don't know.
hire outside to bring in sergeants? It seems like you have a big bench.
No, I don't think we need to hire outside sergeants.
Yeah.
We need to.
So this
promote
is
from
not a
within.
problem we have. You've
If
got a
you-
large bench.
If you're not promoting within, then the same issue, you've got to move people outside and you don't have the upper mobility for, because you got
Yeah, I
a
don't
big jail
like, yeah,
with
so
a
we
lot
don't
of
even,
people.
we don't even need
So
to.
you've got
have
hundreds
that.
of jailers over here and they've got nowhere to go up other than just sit
Right.
there. Because you've hired some outside with pre-existing
Right,
sergeant.
so it doesn't matter that they're
Right.
starting at step one.
I think myself, the 2790 looks good to me, but I don't know.
Does that stay pretty significant all the way across?
Well, right here, if we look at
Or
one,
consistent.
3290 and then it becomes 1.8, so I think probably on this tail end, we want to shrink it to make it more consistent to 1.7 or, and we may want to look at the 3290 a little closer, but, because you've got nobody even close to the 32,
Wait, this is 32?
I'm sorry, 3270.
Where's that? Oh, go back. Oh, change this to what?
Change that to 39, see what it does. Percent-wise. Pretty good guess, wasn't it? To get you an equal dollar.
And
That makes you
again,
fairly even unless you wanna bring the mid down on the
so
sergeant.
again, I understand that the Hendersonville and Gallatin do not have a jail, but I keep thinking about, we still, even though they don't got a jail, we're still competing with their wages. I still got people from corrections walking over to be in it. So even though they're not here because they don't have a jail, they are still in this run.
That's why we thought the jailer should be higher than that average quite a bit.
Yeah,
Because they're
okay.
still competing for other
I'm
jobs
just still
in the
looking
area.
at those blanks and feeling like,
Because you gotta think like what even Costco, for instance, brings people in for around here, pretty good dollars compared to that, you know, and you know, they're not the benefits, everything's the same,
okay, so,
but, so do we wanna flatten that out or leave it where it's at? I mean, they're equal, but if you look at the percentage gain in a regular jailer, it's quite a bit more than this, I don't know. But the 3270, click back over to the comparison, show where we got that from. 3270 was just the average of those. And our sergeants appear to be low on both. And I know there's some years of service issues where we'll be ratcheting them back. So our numbers here is probably skewed like that. 24 is probably actually the 1 year. So there's some, and the average is a little high because we're actually averaging us, you know, a little low because we're averaging us in too, so. You just want to leave it for now and come back and revisit at the very end when we think we know where we're at.
I feel pretty comfortable.
Let's make them purple and go, that way we can come back and
Can we see what that does to the
dollars.
the
Yeah.
dollars?
Click on the dollars there, yeah, we get done with that. Because you're gonna change patrol officer, that's gonna affect us big time on the dollars.
Oh,
It's a big group and, it's the same because that's the numbers we had in there.
Oh,
That was those averages we
We
stuck
changed.
in.
that's the very end.
We just changed the variance, didn't make a significant difference. It is 2186 something, so it didn't make much of a difference. Okay, let's go back to your next one, which was, I think, probably we'll look at your lieutenants in your jail.
so can we go back to the comparison thing? I think it's just, I'm not looking at that right. Where we were at the money just a moment ago, it had the ARPA and stuff sitting under it.
Jail sergeants, is that where you're at?
Well, when we were looking at the 2.1 million, yeah, there.
That's
So
got
I guess
everything
I
in
was
it.
thinking that the above annualized, the 2.1 already had the ARPA in it, but now
It
I see
does.
it.
It does.
Okay, so why is it down below now?
Well,
where
that,
we at
that,
now?
that 2.1 is your difference between with the ARPA in it and their current salary.
Okay, so
So-
it's in there, it's just, I was like.
It made the difference smaller because we have their salary already including ARPA. So to cover the ARPA, you've got a $700,000 or $800,000 issue. If the commission is going to
Okay, I'm
agree to
good.
cover it next year, then.
I was just thinking it's in here,
If
but
the
there it
commission's agreed to
is.
cover it next year, then they have about 3.3 million. If not, then they're already near 3.3. That's kind of a question for the commission. I can't answer.
Okay,
that one.
I'm sorry, thank you. I was still like reflecting on it. I wanna make
Because
sure.
what we don't want to do is adjust this all up, and then next year we have a problem, nobody's willing to fund the ARPA, and we've got the same problem. with it.
Exactly.
So we need to find out from the commission what they're willing to do on that. Are they willing to move a penny and a quarter from debt service next year, or whatever? I don't know. It'd be a commission question.
I know.
Let's look at the lieutenants. I know they're just quartered by their jail lieutenants. Okay, right now, ours is at 2859. I know there's some skewing about the year on step 7. It's the earliest one we have, which is probably, what, do you know your earliest lieutenant?
I'm not off the top of my head, I know.
She's probably a lot less than 7. She's probably been there a while. Probably 6 or 5.
I didn't bring my spreadsheet.
Can't think of who all.
But anyway, we're trying to look at market more than we're trying to look at the individual people, so.
I might
probably
have it, maybe.
Probably the same thing, I think myself, looking at the, well, this is my thing, is your lieutenant's exempt. They're exempt in a lot of other counties. They're exempt employees in other counties, are yours exempt
No.
from overtime?
So I do have
When
the,
I adjust them for exemptions, it would bring that to 3386, basically hour difference. So I think that one, because those are exempt and something, you may want to look at the 3386. Sergeants generally are, but lieutenants become that point where a lot of counties exempt them, because we ask that. Go look and see what we got in there, was it the 3386? Yeah, on the steps, see what that first number is. And that's where we adjusted the hours up and down to make the same 2 weeks salary if they were exempt. Because think about yours, like we pay you, is it 8.5 hours a day or 8.4? Okay. And you're definitely exempt. You
Oh,
work-
him?
Yeah.
8.5.
You work 8.5, whatever you want to. A lot of the other counties calculate theirs on an hourly times 8 hours a day. Even though, so we kind of adjusted yours the same way for that. Anybody we thought was exempt was at the 3386. And we have the 7-year person, which may be a 1 year, maybe a 2 year, would be 28 to 30. So you're still talking quite a chunk of those lieutenants are way off, even at the 3386. But the thing is, they're paying, several of those are paying as exempt. Some are, some aren't. So the 3386 may be slightly high still. I don't know.
Can we go back to the comparison
Yep.
between the?
And I was using
entities?
the number that adjusted for the hours of 3386.
Are you losing lieutenants?
No.
Oh, I do have the spread without names on it. One of the original things, if we wanted to.
We've got it too, but it's got the years in the departments, the same thing that we've got that you've got.
But you were saying.
Not the
what
years
was
of
the old-
lieutenant.
I
We
see,
need the
yeah.
years. He may be a 1 year lieutenant, a 3 year lieutenant. We don't know. And I asked Eric. I thought he might know, but he's got 390 employees. So
How much time would
He
it
didn't
take you to
know.
figure all that out? I mean,
Figure out what exactly.
years they have in each position.
I mean, that's probably.
do you have that on a spreadsheet or is that back in their HR files?
No, we have that on a spreadsheet, their employment date.
Well, no, I mean,
No, it's
they-
different.
Yeah, we'd have to look up when they.
I'm
got
thinking
promoted
it's
for
quite a bit of
bridge.
That's
digging.
what we've got too. That's what we're saying. We may want to deal with like patrol officers and that, kind of determine where we think they're at, because we're going to try to get this all Friday, but it's going to be hard for their department hours to
Yeah,
get
that's a lot of.
years they're in these positions. That's the
Because
big
it is
thing.
payroll.
And that's assuming that, that goes well with your, that idea goes well with your team,
Don't do
because,
anything, that's for sure. So it'll be me, you, Beth.
I mean, it is a clean approach,
He may have helped.
and,
But we'll
and
have
everybody
to-
knows where they're at,
No, but I'll be-
but it's,
Let's go back to the steps and kind of look at it again. So since you're trying to focus certain places, do you want to just try 33 an hour for the lieutenant? Got to think you've got turnover in your jailers, but if you want upper mobility, lieutenants
Right.
are upward mobility.
And
And
Yes.
even if that's a 1 year, 2896 to 33, but I'll be honest, the 3386 may be high because some of them pay on exempt and we don't. So we maybe want to look at 33. I mean,
So-
because of that. It's a fair statement to maybe look at that 33 there.
the lieutenants, I mean, it's based on their performance and stuff, but what do you see coming out of, moving up? Do you see someone moving up at 3 years, 4 years, or they're outstanding? You know, in year one, they're moving up.
it's about 4 year
4
absolute
years.
minimum.
So what am I
timeframe.
making at 4 years in corrections? Can we see what I'm making at 4
So
years?
he would be making 3468.
Yeah,
But did they move to the sergeant and then a lieutenant?
They
Is
have
that
to
how
move to
that-
sergeant and then lieutenant.
So it's
So
several, so
how
you
does
gotta
it
move
look?
up and up. That's a 2-step
so
up.
how does it look when I'm looking at my paycheck? Because that's all,
So
you
let's
know.
look at a 4 year mark.
Let's see what it looks like
What is
there.
a patrol officer? What does a jailer look like?
You want to look at sergeant at 4 years and compare it to.
So I just want to see my career. I
Well,
come
we're gonna
in
clear
as
jailer to sergeant
correction.
and then
Yeah, but you
sergeant to
don't know when they're
lieutenant.
coming out of jail.
Let's do them all for 4 years and just see what the, well, no, do it, okay, let's start this, to kind of get a better idea, let's start with maybe a 6-year jailer, a 3-year sergeant, and a 1-year lieutenant, because they're gonna have to move up, they're gonna be moving back on years. Does that kind of make
Right,
sense?
that's what I was trying to say earlier.
Let's
probably.
let's try an 8-year jailer, an 8 jailer, a 4 sergeant, and a 1 lieutenant, and see what they look like. And I'll write them down. Is that a 8-year jailer's 25 what now?
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So,
What about a sergeant for 4 years?
I'm not writing as fast as you. And Eric stepped out, so we might
Well, I'm
want
gonna
to
read
wait.
them off.
29.
I know, but you read fast.
And what is a 1-year lieutenant?
If we're doing the
If we're-
recommended,
yeah.
3386.
We could go down a little bit maybe, because you're going from 2501, 2949, 3386.
See, you-
if you're
you
going
talk
from
so
8
fast.
to- Well, I'm gonna wait
All
for,
that? Come on.
I'm gonna wait for Eric.
I know, but can I see the numbers? I'm going to calculate over here while he's gone.
I'm gonna go, let's get some coffee, but we don't have coffee.
Can we
More coffee?
can we
You don't
find
need
coffee? I could hear you faster
You don't need
if I had coffee.
I
I
can
motion
hear
that
your
we
thoughts
adjourn
before they come out of your mouth.
5 minutes.
Oh.
We spent too much time with them.
See, some people talk slow, I don't want-
Wait, wait.
Following them.
If you're going for, are you going for coffee?
No, I'm just going out here in a minute to wash my face. and get a little-
Thought he was going for coffee.
There's a restroom. We're taking a break.
He's already tore up a pen here.
Oh, this one.
Chairman Boyd, I think those numbers were 2501 for the 8-year jailer, 4-year sergeant was 2949, and the 1-year lieutenant was 33.
Yes.
Yes.
I actually, when he stepped away, I pulled his sheet over. So Eric, here's what David was pulling up for, just off the spreadsheet. So here's what the hourly at 8, and then 4, and then 1.
Okay.
But I want to see them annualized.
I do too. And so when this 8-year employee goes to the 1-year sergeant, what is it?
Exactly. That's what I'm.
That's what that was.
No, this is by hour. We wanna multiply it out and see what we make
Oh,
annually.
the annual rate, okay.
Yeah.
What are they? I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Are they all 84-hour employees?
Yes, all the corrections.
It's 54,622 for the first one. $64,406 for the second. $73,950 for the second. I mean, for the third.
Oh, okay. Could be out in the air. Oh, my goodness gracious. Let me read these out to you, Eric, what it looks like. Sure. Let's just start with the.
I gave it to him.
Oh, the 2501, the 29, and the 33. Okay. Based on that they are exempt, you may just want to look at 33 and keep your total dollars, add more into patrols when you get there.
They're not exempt, and they're,
In other counties, they're not neither?
no, I'm saying here.
But other
For
counties,
us.
it's kind of all over the place. They may be, they may
Right.
not. Would you be fine with 33 on that one? Because it's still going to give you, well, it's not
But they don't
huge.
earn overtime, they earn staff
But
insurance.
your
They earn
start,
staffing shortage, right.
well, see, here's my concern. If we
They
go,
earn, I'm sorry, they earn,
Staffing shortage.
so they don't earn overtime. Are we saying they earn comp time? Is that,
Right now, no, because we can't afford to give it back, honestly.
okay, so they get time and a half. for-
When,
Yes.
yes.
I was just trying to
Yeah.
parse out the words and what it
It's
means.
a little bit more
Semantics.
controlled than.
Yeah.
Right, it is.
So they're not expected to work past the 80, what's it, 86? 84 hours. So they're really, if they do, they comp, so they kind of get off, like, they're treated like an hourly employee. Kind of my thought is maybe look at, because you're gonna want to look at your patrols too, we haven't got to it, and
And the
I'm thinking
lieutenant
maybe
is
look at
above
30.
the sergeant?
right, because we're going 29.49
Yes.
to 33.86. If you go 29.49 maybe to 33.49, that's a flat $4 difference there.
I like that.
Let's try
Much
for
better than,
Do this 33.49?
33.49. Because we really don't know what difference that makes, and what we've been told by the counties, we might not have been told right. We just asked them a lot of questions. And then that gives almost like the flat, the 36.86. Looks like a pretty good 6.8.
These are significant numbers. If I'm looking at this here, I'm looking at, right here, we're looking at the lieutenant. Now, this is without the ARPA. So the ARPA was in here, but it's without. But if we're comparing that to the lieutenant here, I mean, that is significant.
They're not, they're gonna be uninterrupted.
Now, this doesn't have the ARPA
Like your
in it.
patrol
The ARPA's
officer, you
probably
may
about
be out
3,000 or
there eating, and
4,000.
They call you.
This
and
is
you have to go.
significant. And then the sergeant, again, 64 to
12 hours.
Well,
these, we're covering,
on sergeant
we're
lieutenant, gotta
smoothing
think. I think sergeant lieutenant, we're gonna pull back their years of service too, because right now that's total of the county. So like
I
this
know, even if we
one,
pull it back
this
though.
7-year one here, we're
These
probably.
these being a
Well, this
one-year,
lieutenant may be a 1 or 2 year
one-year
guy.
lieutenant,
If he's a 1-year lieutenant, he'd be
Right.
going.
I mean, that's a
from-
hefty,
Yeah.
that's a hefty lift.
Yeah, I think they're currently
heard longest lieutenant is maybe 3 years.
So if he's at 3 years, then he would get, or she would be at 3410 from 2896, so it'd be like 12.
So I'm not sure, you know, if more in the spread and less in the begin, if we're looking at this lift.
So I think you're gonna have to encourage them to get promoted, so if we're moving 2501 to 2949 to.
I know, but if you look at the actual, if we take this lieutenant at 1 year at 73, here's our lieutenants
Uh-huh.
right here. It's
I
a
know
big lift.
It's a big difference.
And I'm just saying, you know, yes, this is going to help, but once I'm there, I might want that spread a little more.
the
And a
question
little
is,
a little less in the lift and a
just
little bit
putting
more in
them-
the spread.
If we're just putting them at a spot for now and we don't know, this is, as we're saying, we're just working to come up with numbers for now. We're not necessarily saying there's gonna be a future.
Yeah, spread or anything,
So
because
the
that's a
thing
whole
is,
different conversation.
We've got turnovers right now, so we may wanna load it in the first 10. Well, I think you probably wanna load it through your first 10 or 11 years anyway, because somebody's fully trained by 10 years, so you're gaining most of your productivity in the beginning. After that, you're kinda flat. That's another reasoning too, and you're more toward a living wage, hopefully. That's why I'm thinking loaded in the beginning too. But that's just my thought. I mean, I'm kinda, if the 3349 is too much, you may wanna look at 33, 29, and 25, I mean, which would change the jail only a penny, so. But I mean, that may get you a flat difference between them all that direction too.
So the direction we're taking with this, and I think we've all looked at the numbers, is corrections is gonna have a bigger lift than patrol. But
That's-
that is not what
Because of
Sonny
the
is
numbers.
looking for.
No, he wants.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm just going back to that. We're gonna sit here and work, but I wanna acknowledge that that's not what Sonny's.
Yeah, he wants it spread out evenly.
But right now, if we're looking at it specifically at corrections, and we're looking at this size of a lift right here, and it looks like it's justifiable, but we cannot lift, we don't
No.
have the money to lift everybody
So-
like this.
Let's get to the.
Let's
end
just keep
quick and then-
working, you're right.
And then
Yeah.
work backwards from it, and we're going to say, like, right here, we're looking, this is what we like, the 2509, 2949, we come back and say, hey, the lift's impossible. Come back 25, 29, 33. And it's not here, especially on this one, it may be justifiable because it's exempt in some areas, so we can see that one. The sergeant one, we give them some.
So the lieutenant's
There's an hour
exempt.
difference we don't look at, so there's a little bit
I
of.
missed that part, and the sergeant's not exempt.
Air lieutenants aren't
They're
exempt
both-
here. They're
they're
both
not
directions in other counties, so we don't know. Some do them hourly, some don't. They're all over the place. But we know that it would make a difference. That's why the 3386 average is probably a little high. And we don't know 100% how accurate the data was given to us and how accurate we interpreted it, because we went through tons of data. Eric's looked at it, I've looked at it, you've looked at it. And there's massive amount of data we're trying
There's
to sift
massive,
through.
I know.
And we're just trying to get it as accurate as possible. So there's no guarantee these are gonna be 100% anyway, unless we spend another 6 months.
But for that
10
sort of
people.
lift up to 74,000,
Do you just
you
wanna
might
look
look at the policy on exemption.
Do you just wanna
But
look at
we'll move
flat,
on.
you just wanna look at a flat 33 since they're,
What, can we look at the,
go across. So that 28 to 39 is huge there. 9 times, you know, we'd probably pull a little bit by flattening it going that way maybe, I don't know. Because your highest one we've got now is 11 years. What's it? So the 11 years, we go down that direction. You won't even have anybody up at that end anyway. I mean, there's nobody gonna be over there. Because if you look at most we've got right now, we're looking at 11, we're gonna peg those back based on years. So this midpoint, nobody's gonna reach that, it looks like right now, on a lieutenant.
Well, they might if we
We
give them that lift, they might.
But the question is, if you're not doing a scale, it's
Yeah,
gonna be
it's
CPI.
gonna be,
And if you do 0.687 and you do a 3, I mean, you wanna move that middle one there, to kind of make it 0.6875 all the way across, just a little bit down, kind of flatten it across, see what I'm saying? At the 20-year mark, just leave it.
I say leave it.
It's purple amount.
Yeah.
They'll color them out and go on to the next person we need to look at. Probably your jail administrator. He's down toward the bottom, I do believe. Okay, your jail administrator is at 3 years, so he started here at 3 years. go look at the recommended comparison, see what we're looking at on him, see what we're. Same kind of thing about pre-service, this individual's 3 years here, but he's has many years in Shelby, he's been in a lot of, so if we start looking at him and we adjust it out for the hourly difference because he is exempt, the average is 42.37. But at the same time, Montgomery
Robertson.
and Williamson told us they didn't have a jail administrator. I don't really understand what they're doing down there, so.
Yeah, they just don't have that title, right? You have to have a jail administrator.
Somebody has to.
Somebody's gotta be in
We
charge.
just couldn't, we didn't have enough time to sift through to
Right.
figure out why they told us that. We ran out of time. Plus, we kept asking them questions and we were getting, I think they're getting a little less friendly with us at this point. Because they've got jobs too.
That was my fear. They all think we're gonna try and come steal all their employees. And that's not my intent at all. My intent is to take care
But
of
if you look
ours.
at Wilson, Wilson's more of an adequate comparison to, no, see what his difference is from his existing salary for, he does 85, so it would be 85 times 260 and see. 'Cause I think his is,
What you're asking me?
get on the steps, yeah.
Oh, steps.
Do 85 times 260, go plus, just click a cell, plus the 4237, because his number,
37?
well, just click that cell there.
Sorry.
Yeah, there you go, just click, the 4237 cell over, one that says recommended.
Line 217.
I'm sorry, point the screen, they hit minus that.
Mine.
That. Yeah, I hit enter because we didn't print, plus that now because we didn't do order of operations. Plus back over to the 97 cents. Times, is it 8.5?
Yeah.
8.5 times 260.
Oh.
And just do times 260 is fine either way. 'Cause he's 8.5, isn't he? So he's out for about 2,100 is what we're looking based on those averages. Giving him 3 years of service. And that's what we interpreted that the other counties were doing, but we don't know for sure.
But that's not, based on our earlier conversation, we would bring him in.
He did. He
At
came in-
8.
He came in as a jail administrator.
I know, but I'm just saying that based on our earlier conversation with bringing years over and Eric saying 5 years in, we would say 5 plus the 3.
Well, we were doing that for TCI and for your jailers and your patrol officers for posts, but not for
Anybody
sergeant.
else.
We did it for sergeants and lieutenants. We did those years at the county until they get promoted upward. So, yeah, that one wouldn't kind of whack up that way. So 2148 is what he would be looking. So his would actually be lower than. Let's go back over there and see if everybody's okay with that one.
Where?
On the notes. I'm sorry, on the steps, I told you the wrong thing, yeah, right there. Then we come back and revisit, was everybody fine moving on though for now?
And
or-
so that would put him at the recommended 4237?
Yeah,
Okay.
which is the average, and then we adjust it for the hourly rate difference since he is an exempt employee. And we didn't work up the other scales because there wasn't enough. Wanted to see what we should even think. We're trying just to get your numbers. So just highlight that purple and get rid of the cancellation, yeah. Okay, and I think we're pretty much ready to go to patrol officers, aren't we?
Mhm.
Which is your other big one.
And can I look at the comparison again? I'm sorry.
The total
Yeah.
should be, so what I did is I took the average of going across and his, we may want to go back and see if we can get Montgomery and Williamson because, I don't know, they could push it either direction. Rutherford, I would think, would be bigger because they're much bigger than Wilson.
I'm really having a lot of trouble with Rutherford being where they're at because their cost of living is greater than ours, isn't it?
I was thinking it was lower.
Is it lower or
Could be.
is it lower?
Is it more?
Robertson's here.
I think in Robertson and Montgomery next year. So Montgomery probably won't help us.
No,
Rutherford
because
kind of bothers me at 42.
I know, that just doesn't feel-
jail administrator.
it doesn't seem, Rutherford's numbers
They
seem
only pay them 80 hours a
lower.
week, or 40 hours a week too, is what they told us. We asked them that twice. I mean, we can get somebody to ask them again, but we're kind of.
No,
Let's
we're
go.
good, yeah. It just hits me as, really that, if you look at the hourly, that Wilson is at 50 and Rutherford is at 42, I just can't quite wrap my head around that.
Well, so
I mean, that's what they told us, yes,
there
but,
are some significant differences in the way the jail's operated in Rutherford County, right? They have a workhouse, which falls under the county mayor, not under the sheriff, just because of the way the statute dictates it. So there are some variances in the way that Rutherford County jail operations work and Sumner County jail operations.
Exclude, just to see what kind of difference it makes, and we can put it right back. Click on that 3955 Rutherford, just hit delete, and then we'll hit undo. I'm just hitting delete. It'd make a little
Their workhouse
difference
still falls under the county mayor, but.
if we removed Rutherford from
Yeah, I think so.
the scenario.
it was just the
Okay, so
no, I mean, you can put it back. I mean, that's what they told us.
that's what they told us, but I'm saying
It
this-
just seems off, that's all.
Well, mine, the only thing that bothers me is because Rutherford's a much larger jail, so you would be, I would think, and maybe not, I mean, they're a bigger county, I would think they'd have a bigger jail. I haven't verified jail size that Eric knows more than me. But I'm saying if they got a workhouse, that makes a lower security second house, but you're saying the jail administrator's not over the workhouse?
No, that's, unless they've changed it since I've had conversations, the workhouse falls under the county mayor.
And not that this has anything to do with salary, but as far as Rutherford, how they work, is Rutherford where we send our juveniles to be housed?
Yes, well, we have separate contracts, but Rutherford out is primarily because of the logistics of getting them there.
And are they
afterward.
in this, and which piece do you think, he's picking up one of these pieces, you're saying there's two pieces, and we're picking up one piece, and we don't know which piece then that would be, even the juvenile would be in,
The
because
sheriff
that's a whole
acted,
different.
The mayor's actually over it,
I'm quite certain.
or did he just get a, because like, when I was at Green, it's been a long time, they had the workhouse, but the administrators over both of them, but the sheriff got a salary supplement, and the mayor got 110% of that because they're under 5% or whatever, but they weren't over it, I don't know. Now, that's something you might want to get Eric to check into, we marked that one red.
It just.
Just to make
feels
sure
like-
we are being fair with that one, because I don't know, I can't answer, those are the little things we're gonna run into.
Oh, and there's a lot of problems
If you wanna make
with
sure we
apple
get
to
everybody
apple.
fair, then we may wanna look at that one may need to be excluded.
It just jumped out, and
Or you may better get that other county, Williamson, that supposedly don't have one.
Again-
It may have been a captain or something, we just didn't know that
Right,
at
that's,
that time.
yeah, this is who's in charge of the jail. We call it jail administrator. They call it something else.
Right.
Well, we don't have jail administrator. That's the easiest response to give you. You know what I mean?
And we ran out of time, and these people have been really gracious in giving us
Oh,
this. so we
they've
kinda-
been extremely-
We kinda pulled back asking because and that could be one we do need to look at, but I hate to follow them, but, so we're up here at deputies, and let's go over, and let's look at deputies really closely. Deputies, I wouldn't recommend adjusting them, even though ours works more than some, because these are hourly employees. Those are just, what we were looking at is the 24.39, but when you compare them to Gallatin and Robertson, especially Gallatin and how much is Hendersonville, I'm not so sure you're gonna capture enough to fix your problem at 24.39. I'm not sure that's gonna fix your problem.
And when he gives us Hendersonville, can we put it out there in one of the blank columns, because I'm gonna keep thinking about it, and
Why don't we just
can you do
type
something?
Hendersonville and K and
Yeah,
put-
can
know,
you
it
do
looks weird. Does-
I know, it's not pretty, and I'm sorry I'm messing up your pretty.
At least give us an idea what we got. Does Hendersonville, do you know anything about their retirement or anything?
I do not. But
Honestly, I don't know how that's gonna affect us, but let's see what they're, oh lordy. Certified post officer starts at step 3, wow. So they're saying their start rate is 24.25, is that what they're trying to tell us? It says certified police officer starts at step 3.
correct.
So they would be, so they're 24.225 is your one. And we don't know about retirement, big problem. No, I think unless it's changed, they're just like us. But
I think they
but
are
I
just
can't
like
swear,
us.
I don't know about longevity, but they're gonna be, the thing you're competing with here right now is Gallatin and for some extent Robertson.
And I think they're.
Go to the
yeah.
side kind of where I was looking, it's kind of playing around, and that little yellow box. There's a yellow, there. So click that what I was kind of looking at. Hit F2 and see what I did. I think you may want to exclude some of those lower ones when you start looking. Yeah, there you go. Because if you look, Williamson's your lowest outlier, you're probably right off, you're going to exclude them out. I mean, it's not going to help us a lot.
It's not that much.
I did on that little calculation there. Then longevity would net you there. Gallatin, we just hourly differences every 2 weeks. They're not a lot off, but now it's doing 84 and them doing 80. Is that because they pay for their lunch break, or don't pay for their lunch breaks, or do we know how they get 80? Or
I don't.
okay,
It might be on the
Some of them,
Did I ask you about that, but I don't think that we did. We can look over at the notes. We know what they pay, but I don't think it told why for Gallatin. And we don't know why they do that, what that difference is, that 0.4 hours. Say, our officers, we pay for lunch because they may be sitting there and they get called, and not pay for lunch, they've got to be uninterrupted, so we would have to document all that every time. Gallatin may be doing it, or it may be they pay them for lunch and they only work that much with lunch. I don't know. Let's go back to the comparison.
since they're 42, right? Yeah, what's P, police officer 1, 2?
Yeah, showing 42. Go back to your comparison.
So it should be 84.
Just my thought, we have on that sheet 20 and it's gonna make a big dollar difference, but I'd probably run with 25.89. That's Gallatin's, just adjustment for the retirement. And the thing you can say, you work more hours, but you get a bigger check.
Where do you see the,
25.89?
yeah, where you at? Okay.
Minus the retirement difference. And then the thing, they've got a selling point here, I think we have a few more holidays. We work a few more hours, so they get a bigger check, and that's your selling point. And I know Gallatin's probably not got a big, well, they probably got a fairly good sized police force. That's the thing. Right now, Hendersonville don't seem to be an issue, but we don't know what's gonna happen with them as soon as you do something. I don't know where they're coming from.
So the 25.89, that's what they just passed last month?
We have the right one here too, Eric, on this 24 for, it says step 3 here, but what's this down here, PO 14 and 15, is that a police officer?
So this is where you would start, and then these are your steps.
Right here, step 3. But I mean, are they a 14, is that your patrol officer? I don't know.
Correct.
Okay.
When's the last time you all fully staffed? Have you ever been?
Yes.
You wanna put it in there and see what it does to the numbers for now? Let's click over there and see what it does.
I can give you the date.
25,
We talking 10 years ago?
No.
Make that probably, we change, well, we can undo it in a minute.
7 or 8.
Go in there and look at your totals now, see what that looks like in our totals. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Is that when these other entities started?
About
200,000.
Yeah, right off. You'd make you more than the 3.3 if.
And we're
if you're
on-
not
We're on straight up deputies.
Yes. That's your big group. So let's click
And
back
so,
over there.
yeah, click back. I just
And it may
wanna-
move either direction because
Let's see
one,
what-
we're gonna count, how many years do you wanna count post-certified from other entities up to 10?
That's what Gallatin is doing, is up to 10.
What would Gallatin added that bid? Go back to that comparison. Your 10-year person. See, Gallatin's at $32 there and we have $29.89. We may wanna look at that too. See what it affects the dollars. Cause Gallatin's gonna be your biggest competitor, I think. Well, go back to the comparison again. Let's look at Roberts too. Like Roberts, and Gallatin there. Oh, it's not. It's not. It's more. Oh, because this is what I'm talking about, Roberts, and they have such a huge vertical. Look how much they pass Gallatin by the time you get to the 10-year mark. Their salaries, I mean, way past everybody because I'm not sure how they can anticipate
They're-
affording that.
They're gonna have a tax increase.
Probably
That's a
couple.
huge number.
That, and if they're probably gonna have a couple if that's, my understanding they did this countywide.
But yeah, I heard they gave 5 to 11% countywide.
And they raise taxes to do it, but they haven't calculated
They're gonna
for the
have to
steps.
calculate,
They haven't
yeah.
calculated for all these steps and cost of living in the future. So you've got a bigger base for your percentages, and then on top of it, you got these big spreads.
So when they stop spreading, you'll have plenty of employees to pick up.
Well, when they don't get a raise next year on those taxes.
I mean, it's a thing.
I don't know, but that's what I'm saying, do we wanna look at, we got 29.89 there, do you wanna look at close to Gallatin at the 10-year mark?
Yes, I do.
See what the cost looks like, the 32.9, wasn't it?
32 on
Now click on our cost and see what we look like now.
And I'm just looking at the actual that we have right now. What is a 10-year deputy? What's a 10? Oh, I'm sorry, I'll get to that one.
Well, it'd be 10 years as post-certified, let's look at it and see. So they work how many hours, do you know right off? And they are
The patrol or 8.4,
8.4, so let's go back.
but like warrants 31.5.
Okay, so steps. So we would do 10 years. They would get 3209, so it would be plus 8.4 plus that 3209 times 3209 times 260. Delete that percentage sign at the end there.
Oh.
There you go. That should get done for sure. Hit dollars. Hit dollars. Hit a dollar up there at the top, and it'll get rid of it. Oh, hit the dollar sign. Hit enter again. But hit the dollar sign at the very top. See
Dollars.
See up where it says Jim. Right there.
I don't have it.
Oh. Use the mouse right. Here you go. Why is it?
Go back up to the
Because
right
it's
cell.
so big.
Oh, it shouldn't be that big first now. Look on the screen, really, it's not off, doesn't it? How many dollars?
No.
It's got to have percentage in there still. There it is. So a 10-year officer would make $70,084, which is Gallatin's. Well,
And
they would
that's-
make less
that's
because
a-
they don't work as many hours.
That's a lift with that number. So here's your deputies right now. So here's where we're at. And we have some, and the easiest way to see how they line up with longevity is to take a look down the longevity payment. If they're making $1,000, they've been there 10 years. So between, he's saying 70, and you can see that's a huge lift.
But you got to add ARPA. Ours includes ARPA and the
Yeah,
longevity.
so this would be,
So whatever that ARPA's added in again. So it's not as much
So-
as you quite think.
but weighing out between you gotta keep them after you get them.
But
And that spread,
It's $5.
well, it's about
2%.
$5 an hour. Let's say they're on the same step, they don't move back. A lot of them's gonna move back because they started as jailers. Someone's gonna pick up. By and large, I say probably gonna move back, may not be, Eric knows more. But let's just say they say the same, 32, there's $5 an hour times 260 times 8.5. So what is that, what is that, 260 times 8? 11,000 a year. Yeah, I'm saying it's a big pickup in that one too. Get delete and see how we go on the other end after the 10-year mark. Make sure it's at least a positive gain.
but the deputies, I don't see having as much turnover in the deputies as the corrections.
Well, we're starting to see.
And then another thing with our tool here, I don't think they can have a different spread. I think their spread's gonna have to be overall, the whole, back to what Sonny was speaking to is
For each employee or from
a
across?
whole, I bet their spread's gonna have to, be more, if we got a 2% spread down here and we got a 0.6 spread somewhere else, you don't gain that much. I mean, I'm just talking from an employee
Right.
perspective, I wouldn't feel as good.
Right. So right now you're just pegging them though, as far.
Yeah, okay, I'm just thinking through it.
So you're saying the point, I never, like you're saying the 10-year mark, we're going to 2.24% a year, and then we go up here in L11 it's 0.573. Is that what you're saying?
But again, we're just looking at what it could be,
If you pay
There's
the
no
first-
scale going on.
Each position.
or each category.
Or you're going to give them the same raise?
Well,
Same
it's,
percentage.
at least, if we were going in and we were on the, you were category Z and I'm category X, and you know that every year your spread is, I'll make it exaggerated,
Oh,
your spread's 8% and mine's 2%.
She's not
I'm
talking about
gonna-
giving 5 for each one. She's talking about like
If- as I
from the
look at
start
it-
to the midpoint, she thinks they should all be the same amount. Most of your counties are.
I'm just throwing that out there, and we're just looking at a potential, there's no need, they may not do us.
Well, I mean, right now you need to come up with your, because like I'm saying, between step 1 and 10, whatever we put's going to determine the percentage change if they're equal. So we're going to have to get them all up and down vertical too, if you want to do that. We
I'm
can
just
do
saying
that.
that's something for the sheriff's department to think about, and I just want Eric to hear what I'm saying, because they're the ones that's gonna have to manage.
See, the things you got
When it
planned,
comes-
the one reason we're not vertical here at all like that is because we put Williams in the beginning, is one thing, it's not your team because they didn't give us information. And then you'll have Gallatin and even Hendersonville in the patrols, but not in the jails. So you've got apples to oranges for patrols to jails.
The sheriff's office is still gonna have to manage,
But there's
Yeah.
nothing that says that's kind of market driven, but
yeah, back to the
figure out where they
table.
want to put their money to get their people.
Anyways, I was just looking at the
I can't
difference.
float this computer.
Thank you for indulging me on that.
Well, let's look at the totals right now, but, and I know this is gonna be way off because we don't have the years of service right now, but, and we haven't verified all the numbers. It's still be 3.3, so somewhere there's not. So let's keep going, let's go to your sergeants would be next in your patrols.
But with the final numbers, we don't know, again, back to, we don't know how many years of service.
Well, one thing, let's.
If we popped everybody at 5 years, we might be out of money.
Oh, starting?
Yeah, if we went back and because we recognize that our force is not at
Well,
1 year.
A couple of things, we know your sergeants and lieutenants are all going down.
Down.
Your patrol
yeah.
officers and jailers could go either direction, which is your majority. By and large, I think your jailers, if we're gonna count pre-TCI, is gonna go up. I think your patrols may go either direction, I don't know, probably down. I don't know.
Probably down.
According to me, they've tired with pre-service.
Yeah.
That's gonna make a difference.
It's gonna
Let's go to
make-
your
it could make a big
SROs,
one.
because that's something we didn't show, that's why we're go to the steps. SROs were all over the place, so what we did, because there's that hourly difference, Eric, we convert them, because you guys wanted to make the same every 2 weeks. We basically took a formula, click on your SROs. Just link back to, give a click on like the, and the warrants, we basically did a formula back up to your patrols. One's 8.4 and 8.5, so. That's why we're not really talking about them. They're certified officers put over in the schools, and they work a different, like 8.4 to 5 or vice versa. And I think the hourly rate will be slightly lower. They work a few more hours. Is that what it is? Or the other way, I can't remember which direction. But either way, we formally those in. Is that what you wanted to try to continue? And the same thing on the certified court officers.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna stay 8.5, they're not gonna go to 84.
And you want them to make the same every 2 weeks because they're okay. And then the only other thing on the uncertified, I didn't put anything in there because I think you're kind of phasing those out.
We are.
So I put that all as the existing pay where they're at. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
phasing it out, there's no need to raise up a pay for positions you're gonna eliminate.
Yeah,
Push
unless
them on into the certified area.
a tsunami comes and we have to make some decisions we don't wanna make, everybody in the court system is going to be
So-
a certified deputy.
So that's some things we did. We linked those up the way you're doing it. And then on the non-certified, we did 0 adjustments because you don't want to adjust people
Right.
that you're trying to get out of those positions because then you're going to encourage them to stay non-certified.
So right now, we're at the deputy, what's our purple on the deputy hourly?
And it'll grade SROs and.
That's, I just wanna write them all
School
down. So we got deputy at 2589 in our discussion, right?
Right. I think another reason to have this vertical spread bigger your first 10 years is where you're most productive and most likely to turn over.
I agree with that assumption.
Now, oh, I'm sorry, vertical, horizontal.
And
Yeah, because they're the
then,
same. Yeah, they just link. Yeah. And then so will the warrant officers should too.
Hang-
33,
Wait a second.
Their hourly rate's different because their number of hours you get the same for every 2 weeks.
Right, so on step 10, they're gonna make $6 more an hour?
Go back up. Click on that and see what that's like.
Oh, I was looking at corrections to SRO, sorry.
There could be a formula
Yes,
wrong.
yes.
No, we need to double check and make sure because we
Got
do
it.
this fast. To get to where we're at. The uncertified, we just left them at what they're currently making. Because they're uncertified. The certified, we
This
make.
should match.
That, it should be that should match exactly to that other one. So they should kind of handle their sales if we're gonna keep that same percentages, yeah. So I think you're really to the sergeants and,
and then the courts were the same?
They're, they're 8.5 hour deputies, just like SRO,
Okay.
except for the non,
except for the blue shirts.
and we're recommended to leave them where they're at because
They need to.
they need to get certified or eventually be phased out.
What is the difference right now with our, I know it's on here, we've talked about it, I just wanna,
Oh, it's a guesstimate right now because yeah.
I know, so like I'm
It's like 3
uncertified, what's
Oh.
my incentive, what's my number, what's my pay incentive to get certified?
Where's the certified on those,
Court officers.
yeah, the uncertified, yeah, go click down, go, just go, I'm sorry, go down a little bit. Go down low, you see, oh, there you go. It'd be that difference there between the purple and the yellow there and all.
$3,
$3
go get
an hour.
certified.
Yep, stay where you're at.
6,000.
Yeah.
I think they'll eventually lose their job if they don't get certified.
Yeah, I think he said they had a year.
Yeah. I think they'll-
Well, that's for new ones, these are
That's,
existing.
and I thought that was corrections, is that?
No,
ever-
okay, it's,
I mean, there's a lot of
you're
facts.
talking about existing, we've got, they've had it for several years, non-certified, non-post certified, in the courthouse, their security. He's wanting them all certified. That's what we're talking about right now. That's right, Eric, make sure I'm correct. We've had non-certified, non-post certified security in the courthouse for years. We're moving to where they're all post certified, just like a patrol officer. So this group right here, the $3 an hour, is the difference between non-post and post certified. So they're trying to phase those out. So my point being, leave their salaries the same, give them cost of living that way, or eliminate. There's only so many ways to do it. But if you give them raises, it encourages it to stay, and that's positions he's not keeping.
And I like that, but I like that for all citizens. I mean, we're doing that, we're gonna take better care of the judges. and the-
Jail, they got 1 year to be TCI, or they're gone. Now, patrol officers now, I think you
Yeah,
only,
that's what
I
I'd
think
like
they got a
to-
year too, don't they? For post, what's their?
6 months unless we submit a waiver.
So we're going 100% post?
Yes.
Because I missed that, I'm sorry.
Yes. For the court security division, yes.
For the court, but what about others? What about
Patrols, she's talking
patrol?
about patrol officers.
They're all mandatory posts. They can't go out.
They're
and enforce the law.
mandatory posts. And so they're not, there's a time that they're not going to be post maybe, or they only get in if they're
So,
post?
well, no. So once we promote them and they accept a promotion to deputy, they start field training. So they'll be with a field training officer until they go to the academy. Once they go to the academy and graduate from the academy, the state says, here's your post number, you're a certified police officer, then they can start working on their own, a single man car.
If they don't make it, then they don't have a job.
Right.
But between that time
So
that
you're-
we're doing this process, they're on this uncertified status.
Well,
Are
we
they-
don't have an uncertified building up there, that's what I'm.
Right, so what are you paying them then?
Starting deputy pay.
Okay.
That's what I would probably.
And then when they get their certification, they just got a job.
They're on step two.
It's not like they've got
Yeah,
the
got
$3, they, huh?
They're hired
got
in.
bumped.
They're hired
They
in
got
knowing,
bumped.
they're hired in knowing they've got to finish this or they're gone. pretty
So there's
much.
no
You're hired
pay
as a
increase
deputy.
because either you're gonna keep your job or you're not.
No, the sheriff has it set up right now where I think whatever the line item is for a deputy, say it's $50,000. Once you get promoted from the jail or you walking off the street, you start off at $40,000. After you graduate the academy, it moves up to 42, and at your 1 year, you get
So
40.
there's
don't
the
you-
bump. That's what I was,
Why don't
that's what I was
you, why don't you
wondering.
just, because we want to count total service with the county, but if you still want to keep a bump to go from posting on, why don't you just make it, like right now, you're raising deputies up pretty good, just take the start deputy and the start jailer, and before your post or TCI, because you got 6 months or a year, you still get the service credit counted, but minus off $1 or $2 an hour, whatever, just write a rule up there versus credit. Because they're only gonna be there 6 months or a year, so
Hey,
you start in $1 or $2
I
less
like
than
to
you
talk
do.
about minus.
Yeah.
It's not a good sale.
Well, no, what I'm saying is go.
I know
back
what
up-
you're saying.
Go back up to a rank, like a patrol officer.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
There's
and
no,
I
moving
don't
on
see why the
from-
sheriff would change his.
and I think you're doing exactly what
Right.
I'm saying. It's just that David's
Well, what I'm
not
saying,
reflecting it in this
so you've got
scenario.
2363 and you're going to 2589. That's your new for step one, first year patrol. Before they become patrol, if you want to give them their probation or whatever before they do it, all you do is take the 2589 and take $2 off. So you $2 less. It's 2389
Which is what you're doing.
Which is what we're
It's
doing.
what you're doing,
I-
essentially, yeah.
In my mind, you just leave the 2589 in that line for that deputy, and the sheriff
Right.
works it out the way he sees fit throughout the.
You know, but she's going to do something similar to that. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Pretty much 2589 will be after you become certified.
And that's what I was talking about. I
Sheriff ought to
just didn't
start
see
pay
it.
whatever he deems appropriate to get people in there, up to the amount, which is what they've always done. I don't even know if it varies. We budget in there every year. We have people making less, and we put the difference on the budget line. If you look at our budget for the two together, make sure we have the money for it. That's pretty much what, same thing for the jailer. Do we wanna
Thank
go-
you for going through.
Oh, you're welcome.
I thought that's what should be, and you've
wanna go to
explained it.
Captains, detectives, chief, okay. Do you want to go to sergeants next? I'll go over to the comparison on sergeants. Same thing, sergeants are always so I think right now we put the average in there of 32. I'm sorry. That's SRO sergeant, is his office. Oh, sheriff's office,
Oh, I was confused too.
sorry. Yeah, that's what we're looking at. Our sergeant was actually one of the high ones. One of the few outliers right now that we definitely don't want to decrease it. But we also got to think of where I've got that 4-year sergeant. Well, he's only got 4 years here. That's who you want to be.
There's a big jump when they go to sergeant. It's a big jump.
Mhm.
But I think it may be overshot.
I was
I
gonna
don't know
say,
about
what's
that,
wrong
but-
with adjusting it for ones that progress into it?
I'm saying if we put it to where
Future.
right now for you in the future, but I mean, right now you don't want to back to that.
No, I'm just saying from this point forward kind of thing.
Well, because the sergeant is the one that's on the scene making the tough decision, right? Like, he's the guy that I need to have 100% full faith and confidence in, that when a deputy may or may not say, hey, you can't do it, the sergeant's been willing to say, hey, deputy, you're not. And to me, you have to pay for that fortitude to stand up and do what's right in the moment.
Right.
And I completely agree with that. And
Would
I
you
think you
say
guys
that
have been
job
doing that.
Yeah, we have been.
And
That's,
you've been
That's a big
covering that
bump.
more than other entities.
But isn't that the same job description for the rest of them, or are we missing that part of the equation?
I thought
Yeah.
it's the same. That's one thing, I think
I
this may be a position that's just overshot here. Which there's not a lot of them,
I don't think that they view it the same way that I do.
I'm just saying if it's either a numbers game or if it's a performance game, and which can't play both sides sometimes.
but right now they've been low by and large with this one, and I think detectives are the two that's been high, and your clerical and some maintenance is high.
What's your turnover on them?
So
not
is this the
drastic.
deputy sergeants that I'm looking at? So my turnover, I have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5. And they're,
They probably, they might be going.
Nobody's gonna
That's
get a
fine.
decrease in pay, so
Yeah,
it's not
nobody's
gonna
getting a
affect,
decrease.
it's not gonna affect existing, it's only gonna affect people being promoted to sergeant. The first thing we need to do, if we're gonna look at that average 32, 38, we need to see when does a deputy reach 30-something? So let's go back over to
Yeah.
deputies and first see if it even makes sense, deal. So a deputy reaches 3209, okay, now what's the start for that average? How long do you think it takes to become a sergeant in your 10 years?
Somewhere in the 8 to 10 range.
Okay. So it needs to be somewhere enough to entice you from the 3209
so
back
deputy,
to a start one sergeant, because you'll be year one sergeant. So
so deputy for 10 years?
it's 3209 right
It's a
now.
career path?
Okay, so 3209, let's see what a sergeant, go back to that comparisons on sergeant. Make sure we're making sense. From 3209 to 3238 is going to be a little low, because there's not going to be enough jump. So it needs to, the 36 is a big jump, but, boy, they don't have a big jump in Gallatin either when you start looking at that. Because you're going to need to pick up some money. So if you picked up, how much money do you think it'd tie somebody from a 10-year deputy over to a sergeant? I work 10 hours a week, 8.4
That's right.
times 260.
And it looks like our longevity, our smallest longevity in this 5-person sergeant thing is 5 years.
But they wouldn't have been they'd have been a patrol officer before that.
Yeah, because I can't, oh, you're
So
right, I
probably
keep
like a
forgetting, I
one-year
can't see
sergeant
it.
then, yeah. That's why we're going to get those numbers for anything above.
That's, yeah, it's difficult.
First you determine your pay rates and then you determine all that.
I don't see a bump. I don't see
I
any way to
wouldn't say
justify a
but I
bump
mean,
at all.
But you need something from the 32, 38 average ain't gonna do it, because if you're paying 3209 for a 10-year patrol officer, and it takes about 8 to 10 years to get there, then you're gonna ask you to do a lot more work, suddenly you're gonna want more money, so I think
But
you need at
36,
least,
that's $4.
I think you
Need
need,
$4 what we did on corrections to sergeant.
go back here and look at what we got. Do corrections to sergeant, searches to sergeant. What's the difference between a correction officer and a correction sergeant? They're
Let's
they're
see, yeah, I
On
had it
those
somewhere.
cells we made purple.
Yeah, it was the difference between, yeah, there you go. So corrections is 2350. Okay, what's the sergeant for corrections? 2790. It is actually $4.40. So let's go back over to your patrols. Or no, over to that comparison, sorry. You know what they look like.
Wait, here or back to?
The sergeant says that over here, yeah. It's gonna have to be at least 35 to get them in there.
That's what I was thinking.
I think if we hit them 35 and leave the existing grandfather all those in, I think you probably, because otherwise you're gonna run out of money everywhere, I'm afraid, before we get done.
Even I think 35 is, I mean, I understand the difference, you know, comparing the corrections to the deputies and the jump.
Like Jessica.
You also gotta think, at a 10-year deputy rate,
Go Roberts.
you've got the seniority, you're on day shift.
They contribute or not, you know, go with
And when you go to be the
So-
junior sergeant, you're going to midnights, most likely.
He contributed to it. She must have copied that from the other day. Yeah, she copied that from the other time. She didn't get those contributing. Did they up there? There you go. And she didn't put Robertson in that total. We'll see what it does when we put Robertson in. I hit some. Yeah, right there, hit some.
But at 35, I mean, we're at 72,000 a year, plus we're still contributing 5% into the retirement. I mean, that's some pretty good pay. I understand comparing it back and forth.
But see, Gallatin's at 32, that would be like,
What are they at?
that would be like their patrol officer 10 years and their sergeant's making the same. They may be counting their years of service is different than we're talking, that's what I'm kind of wondering on them. Something's funky with Gallatin. Or we typoed it in. Go click Gallatin over there steps and make sure she's got the right step for Gallatin. Yeah, go to the steps for sergeant for Gallatin.
Yeah, because that's a lot different.
Yeah, does that make sense too?
No.
There you go, now look at the 10-year step for sergeant for Gallatin. Go back and see where she's got linked, yeah, it makes more sense now. We'll click that file, because Gallatin has to read.
Step 4, or 10.
Oh, we're at
That's step 10.
I'm sorry, go
This
back
is
and
step
look,
4.
go back and look at step 4, I'm sorry. 33 seconds.
100.
Gallatin.
Yeah, she's got it.
She got it right. But that's gonna make it awful hard to get.
But their spread looks right.
But we're looking at 3251, and that's. But I mean, all the sergeants are low. And then you go back up to their, so how do they get people to go from patrol officer to sergeant? I mean,
Environment.
I'm kind of there. If you come told me I was a 10-year patrol officer and said I want you to be a sergeant for the same money, I'd be like,
Responsibility.
I'd stay a patrol officer.
On midnights, which is where you go most of the
Yeah,
time.
I mean,
I think Gallatin's got it wrong here.
plus at the same time, we're trying to, go back here the comparison. Robertson's 34. So what would our 8-year patrol officer look like in that compared to that?
8-year patrol.
Say minimum times 8 years to become a sergeant. 20, 30, 59. You know, and we're, how much is sergeant now?
36.
No,
Oh.
for the average that we have in there temporary. 3251. That's only like 5. I mean, it is, but that's if they do it at 8. If not, if they're at 10, then it makes it even smaller. Is it usually 8 or 10 before they pop back down there?
It really depends on the candidate, right? We hire somebody that's a rock star, they meet the bare minimum civil service requirement to be promoted, and then
A spot comes open, they do it at 8. So it's basically a spot, if the spot's open.
I don't see anything in the market that suggests any bump, though. I mean,
Not from the 36. but
Not
I
from the
mean,
36.
I think the 3251 is gonna be low myself. I think you're gonna need a bigger spread than that, 3059 to 32, but. How does everybody feel about 34 maybe?
I was thinking 35.
let's look at the 34 and then,
Yeah.
yeah, and then look.
$34.50 since I'm looking at 35 and then 34.
Because if we're looking at how much money we have to spend, and we do have a budget here,
Click back over comparison, see what we're looking like.
and I have,
I'm sorry, Sumner County, I keep telling
I have 2 sergeants at 15 years currently, and whether part of that is, we're gonna move that back for how long they've been. Let's just say they're 10 years. I mean, really out of the 5, I got maybe 2 or 3 that are 10-year. So we've got a bucket of, we got a budget.
Right now, if we say they're not gonna cover the ARPA, you'd be at 3.6, barely over.
We gotta cover.
If they're gonna cover, well, I'm saying if we're gonna cover it out of this, but if the county's gonna cover it out of something else, then we still have money, that's kind of what I don't know.
We're gonna have to cover it after something else pretty soon, whether we cover it
Well,
this
one way
year.
or this way or that way, that's what I'm saying.
This way or that way, there's
That's
money
why
to be
which way are they
covered.
willing to do it right now?
It's gotta be gone.
And this year's not an issue because we're already partially through the year, so if we're annualizing salary and we start on next payroll, would say November 1, then there's still this many months past, we're good this year on the money. But the question is, we want to annualize it long term. And we come in next year and say, oh my God, how are we gonna pay for all this?
The sooner we rip the Band-Aid off, the sooner we can stop. It's like,
How's everybody feel about moving on with the steps that we keep at least moving with the?
yeah, let's move.
There's still a pretty good spread there. Let's look at the very high-end spread on it too, because it's really uneven.
It's still at 34.
Well, that's 36, so if we can get, try 39.50, oh, no, the 41.45, try 39.50, see if it's try 39. Try 38.50. What do you think, Eric? Makes it more even across, or is the bigger number needed? I think the 10-year, if anything, you'd want it to be bigger on the first half on any of them.
I mean, the further we look out, the more unrealistic it becomes that it would end up that way. But,
Although having people.
yeah.
But eventually, but if we start paying market, we may get longer and longer term people, which is a good thing too. We just gotta plan for it. I mean, I'm sure they don't like to have short-term people. Everybody
No,
makes
I
issues.
mean, spend a year getting these guys trained up and ready to do the job, and then they turn around and go to Gallatin.
On the tail end.
I looked at the cost
That's
of
what I brought it
turnover.
down.
It's not pretty, especially in this category. Did y'all see the numbers for cost of turnover?
First
I have
sergeant or
it.
lieutenant.
Is which, I think I have that one with me.
Well,
It was
if you're promoted within,
significant.
it creates a blank deputy, a blank sergeant that goes to lieutenant potentially. and a
Well, this was just turnover if we went to another entity. But I don't think I agreed with I couldn't see their clear formula. I can see the bottom line. This is from CTAS. This is the page. And like I said, I couldn't understand their formula, but you can see the difference between turnover from corrections to turnover from control. The bottom line. Again, I can't really follow how they're coming up with it. I'm sure they must have had some
All
kind
of
of
the
basis.
corrections are really strained down there with 42.
You see it?
vacancies.
Yeah, so,
And right
Yeah.
now, what the sheriff's department's doing, that's why they're paying automatic time and a half. They're basically drafting people to work overtime in the jail at this point, because they can't keep enough people. They've been doing it for 2 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2, 3, 4 for a long, I think. We time flies.
Setting ourselves up for lawsuits too.
So
We're still dealing with that one.
the problem you've got is they're like really strange down there right now. Is that yours?
so anyway, that's just to justify what the chief is saying about the cost of retraining. But I don't see that, I mean, we only have 5 sheriffs, or
I say
5 people in that category.
We're getting ready to go into lieutenants. I think it'd probably be a good time to take like a 10-minute break. 10, 15-minute break, and then before lunch, we can probably all have everybody in there and start looking at the totals and how we spread across.
Yeah.
Because you want to see your vertical and horizontal spreads and how you're going to look compared to the counties. And, well, mainly other cities are right on top of us. And we're bleeding to right now.
Before we spend a lot more detail, is this going in a direction that you think is workable? Because, I mean, we can spend hours and hours, and you're going to go back and talk to your team.
I think using this methodology or this process, I'm happy with where we're at and how we've progressed. I think, in my mind, stopping the bleed in the jail and those corrections officers, some staff to help them is paramount. I think that this does that. I think it does the same thing on patrol. We'll start recruiting and filling our vacancies so our guys aren't stretched so thin. And so it meets those two goals. Is everyone going to be happy? No, but I think that I can live with that.
So you think it's marketable?
But
But we need to continue
Yeah.
working. I just want
We
to have
need
a
to-
stop
yeah, oh,
and point
absolutely. We need
and
to
make
continue
sure that we're
working.
going in a direction that's
Yeah.
doable.
And I think that I understand this well enough that I can go and present it to the sheriff and get his opinion because.
And
like
he
I
can
s-
watch the,
Yeah, like I said at the
15
beginning,
hours a
I'm-
tape.
It's all not perfect, we've got as much data as we can
Yeah.
get, and we've interpreted the data the best we can, and just like I'll be honest, the lieutenant's a little fuzzy, are they exempting these other counties or not? I've heard everywhere, I don't know. I mean, we've got those things, we're never gonna.
And that's something I'd like
We can wait
to-
100 years, we're never gonna know. what
Not
those
this
are.
week, because with all this crunching, is I'd like to see the true overtime numbers.
Their overtime
True.
was just mainly created by the staffing shortage. in jail.
Exactly.
And
And that
it's-
makes a difference, how much
That's gonna
we,
disappear the more, because right now, if you're completely filling the jail, they're taking jailer positions, making the overtime.
Right.
So as you fill those, overtime disappears.
and that makes the bottom number change significantly
Yeah.
once we stop
But what they're
looking at.
filled, they're gonna be dollar for dollar, so you're probably gonna end up about the same plus the cost. But you've still got the same issue if you can't run the jails, kind of, I hate to admit that, it looks like we're maybe heading eventually. Because, everybody's having more and more staffing. We've had times it's been worse in the past, but you know how things, it's just kind of a pattern, it's starting to show a pattern. It's 33, now it's 40.
And you mentioned the inspection report
Mhm.
when you were at the health and emergency last time. Is that still a document that can be shared, or?
Mhm.
I'd still like to, because that does have some
s-
weight in making sure this moves forward.
I'm certain I can share it with you. I'm not the originator of the records, but I don't know why I couldn't.
If anything you share with me, anybody can pull. So, I mean, anything you share with him, nobody can, but when you share with me, that's.
Well, I'm happy to give it to him, and I don't know why it would be
I-
an
if
issue.
it, so you can share
Yeah.
it, so
Unless
that
they
would be
get you to
good.
sign something,
Yeah.
I mean, there's very few times like.
That's
the audit
shareable
gives
though,
me
right?
jail
It's
to say
open.
this
So
confidential by
because that
statute,
just
but
lends more
it'd have
weight
be
to the,
statute.
Yeah.
Importance.
the
Right.
importance
I mean,
of this exercise,
yeah,
is that report. And that's when we started this conversation, you
If
and
I'm
I,
not
is with
mistaken, Mayor,
that.
they sent you a copy of it as well, didn't they?
A copy of
The
what?
TCI inspection report, where they did the annual surprise inspection?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
so.
I was gonna say, I don't think this
Because
is
that would be
protected.
important to see if you have it there, can you just send it, one of you? That would be, something to read before we see you on Friday. Not that we're adjourning, just,
Madam Chairman, can we take like a 15-minute break?
only if it includes a coffee pot
That's
somewhere in
what I'm
this
saying, we
building.
got coffee, we can find
You
coffee.
need to make a
somewhere.
motion.
I'd like to make a motion to take a
Second.
15-minute break.
Everybody
Have a
wanna
second?
I second it.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
that? That way we can turn the cameras off.
Like that, or?